multiple decades of rivalry, multiple games, multiple genres of games, and now fighting over that Summoners Cup. We have made our way onto the Rift for the first game.
A brief moment
30 seconds until minions spawn.
for the fans on both sides. But no surprise in any arena when the T1 fans are just that little bit louder. We've said it before, but it feels like every single arena we go to, no matter what region it is in, T1 are the hometown heroes.
Already seeing a very aggressive level 1, as you would expect from both Ashe and Braum here. I want to highlight one thing that we've seen this tournament is the arms race when it comes to teleport in the bot lane. Right now, Guma did actually go for the teleport, and Dokdom hasn't. So Dokdom does have the Combat Summoner, but they need to actually get any mileage out of that, because if not, you are going to lose in the long run if you have even trades, because your opponent will be able to cheat tempo way better than you do. And we'll also see whether lane swaps might play a part in that as well, because teams have been very happy to swap for grubs.
Yeah, meanwhile on the other side, Guma won't have a cleanse if he does get hit by an Ashe arrow.
Yeah.
And so we'll see which bet ends up paying off.
And it's important to note, as thrilled, as excited we are at this matchup, the story of these two teams this year has been incredibly one-sided. The most recent best of we saw, KT were able to make the upset happen, but it's only because of the tournament form that we've seen from KT that there's faith that this telecom war isn't just going to be one-sided.
Yeah, there's a little interesting bit at the very end there.
That was a 2-0.
One little bit of an upset, and we have been seeing this KT Rolster coaster keep going up. Gen G had similar dominance over this team, and KT were able to upset them.
Yeah, and shout out to the production team for this graphic on a side note. We said Galaga, we were kind of joking, but it does feel apt. It's not a roller coaster anymore, it's a spaceship, but if there's one team that might bring them back down to earth, it is Faker himself. Of course, we did see in the meantime a bit of early trading on the bottom side, heal used from Peter for that additional movement speed to make sure some of that damage would stick, but Peter and Dokdam, they're getting prio, but losing out a bit when in terms of overall HP. That said, Guma has already popped the pot, so still quite favorable for KT overall.
Still cookie for Dokdam as well, as both junglers will be pathing towards the bot side. Obviously, Wukong prefer to just farm to 6. Has decent access to lanes, but not really any CC, nor that meaningful damage to speak of, particularly pre-first base, but really not until he gets a Triforce. Owner, though, on the Xin Zhao has been, for me, the main early game engine for T1 for, well, I could say the entire year, but we can go a couple years back at this point. There's been a reason why this man has really been, I think, by many considered over the whole year the best jungler that we had in the LCK.
And the desk so beautifully highlighted his consistency, right? He feels like the rock for this team. That's been doubly true for T1 domestically. Of course, at Worlds, so many of the members of the team have stepped up, so it doesn't just feel like Owner running the show in the early game, but need to see where those early ganks are going to come from, because the Xin, we know, can have that early impact, even while we expect the Wukong to farm.
Yeah, and on the opposite side, that Wukong that I really highly prioritize right now, as far as the jungle pool, is going to find the first skirmish.
Cuz kicking things off, Carrier waiting off to the side, TP already used, flash backwards, the concussive blow stacking, Owner 2, they got him! Manages to lock him down, and that's gonna be first blood, they're donating it to BDD!
The roam up the bottom lane here, Peter on the Braum again, he's able to roam early into the river, that makes the difference, the concussive blows actually makes the difference, they pop the blast cone, and it is KT who strike first!
And let it be known that BDD is like, oh, you want to fight for Scuttle? I'm TPing straight to river, and it's that bot lane prio we talked about. Because they had the prio, starting level 1, Peter was able to roam up, and Owner gets caught off guard.
Pushing lanes are everything for early jungle skirmishes. This is the first highlight that you ever talk about for jungling, for objectives. BDD comes over, he roams down, Peter roams up, and KT as a team are able to collect their first blood. We did warn against the possibility of BDD also taking over, by the way. He has been magnificent at this tournament. He has been such a carry player all year long for this KT squad.
And what I love with BDD is it goes way further back, right? Is perfect!
All in, Doran forced to flash back, just a trade of flashes, but Doran struggling to survive now in this matchup as Peter does his best to hold the wave. Carrier going for the knockback on the heroic charge. Guma a bit more damage, but clearly the lane's getting a little bit anxious, trying to force these bigger plays.
But we're seeing there is no hesitation from KT. Perfect with the confidence on the rumble to go in. But for BDD, as I wanted to, just as a small reminder, this man was one game away from making, and I would say dragging his team to finals back in 2021. As
Dom going in. Hunter's volley not quite enough. Now Carry is looking to finish the job himself. Slowly but surely the Poppy whittling him down. Dom forced to flash away. But Carry hungry for blood. A little bit more time. The Q flash forward. Dom with a bit of a sidestep. Extra movement speed. Trying to make it through the minions. Dom living for an extra moment. Avoiding the angle back into the wall. Carry gets the knockback. The cleanse coming out. 1 for 1 in the bottom lane.
And Dom tries to get Guma, pays for it with his life, but he does get the trade back.
Okay, now they're going to gank bottom lane too. Guma's trying to push the wave in. They're going to punish him.
Flash.
The wraparound. Braum is there. Wukong is there.
Dom on the way down. He won't be there in time. However, Unbreakable Peter looking to mark him up. Concussive blows finally hitting. Auto attack reset more than enough. Guma Yushi falls at the hands of Cuz.
And KT are not letting them breathe. That is already a kill going over to Cuz. Wukong accelerated, and it's a 1.2k gold lead at 6 minutes, Kobe.
And Cuz has done so much for this KT squad. He has been carrying really heavily himself. With early money onto Wukong, you get to your Triforce so accelerated, and you can win those mid-game team fights. Here's another look at Guma baiting down until the last auto, his health bar, so that his support can go for the kill.
Because Dom was trying to just cancel the base, but didn't know Carrier was still there. Carrier was in the tri-bush, canceled his base, and that's what led to this extended sequence. And Carrier going for this was fine, right? That 1-for-1 trade is good because you killed the AD carry, but it's the punish onto Guma here that turns it very much in favor of KT.
Exactly. The reason why you say that play is fine is because then they're going to assume that they get to push in on the minions afterwards, which would make it worth it. But the timings from Peter and Cuz, they've been so synced up this game. The early roam into the river, this roam here, they come back out onto the map at the perfect timing to punish the attempt to push the wave in, which also earns them this early dragon. And as we talked about in the setup, before you even got into game number one can have huge implications here as far as the confidence for KT in their ability in this grand finals. They talked about it after upsetting Gen G, and they are off to a very good start here early on in game number one.
Incredibly impressive start is once again the flick connecting onto BDD. Faker holding his own in the mid lane decently well despite those early kills going down, but you both highlighted it so well. Dom, really everything working out perfectly for him as his team is there to support. His team is there to cover. We did see in the picture-in-picture while we were breaking down that replay, an attempted gank top side from Owner. Wanted to try to find an angle onto Perfect. Beautiful size up on the W means it doesn't go through. But KT on the bottom lane, now that Guma has this 6, potentially more angle here for T1 to play if they want to recoup some of these losses.
And for T1, there is still a lot of power in their team fight. I particularly like your ability to single out targets and force unfair fights, right? With the Taliyah, with the Poppy as well. Poppy in particular can really turn any game around as long as you find high enough value targets. But we also need to be real. This early game is being completely run right now by KT.
T1 recognize they cannot contest the grubs. Prio on the top side still in favor of Perfect. Mid lane relatively even, slightly in favor of the side of T1. Faker hovers into the darkness, threatens maybe a Weaver's Wall to the bottom lane, but Peter and Dom pretty effortlessly holding for now. So difficult to dive this Ash Braum, but Carrier might go for it anyway. Knock forward, Dom there. Case to stand behind me, wants to come through, but Carrier, of course, can interrupt. Flashing out instead, then using the W to escape just to make sure the Steadfast Presence does not come through. However, they're zoned away from the tower, and they're going to be losing some plates.
Okay, so KT, they back off. That does mean with the half row mid from Faker, who is hovering to threaten the full commitment from T1, BDD is going to shove out this mid wave first and see if there is any contest over red. It looks like Cuz, early pings, he knows that may be an objective that Owner would try and go for, and so immediately goes out to protect it.
Do really like the bounce back from T1 here, not getting Toronto is the arrow.
Okay.
Close. Faker, not too scared of that one. But yeah, the T1 with the presence of mind, it was about a 300 gold swing thanks to the play in the bot lane, the CS denied as well as the plates. but there were free grubs for KT. We'll see if that's going to be worth or not, because it really depends on how much access they get to turrets.
True, but I want to remind people that this is Fearless, so the importance of these picks that have worked before, working again. Doctem played the Ashe, had an incredible arrow hit ratio. Shout out to our stats guy Hayden for manually tracking every arrow that hit. It's a similar story for Guma, so for Doctem to take this away from Guma and have a good game is crucial for KT's game plan, as the ulti doesn't connect from Doran. That's crushing. Very likely would have been a sure thing on the initial kill, and now Perfect wants to go for the all-in. Carry on the way up, but Perfect is completely overheated. Buying a bit more time to overheat now as he turns back into the wave. Damage coming in, and the rest of the team has arrived. Spinning right on top of Doran. It is a Cyclone. Carrier running for his life. Concussed. Taken down. KT dominating game one.
Perfect on his rumble. There is a reason he is so confident on that champion. Teleports down to the bottom side, will equalize the play.
So the cross map doesn't work out, and targeting Perfect has been a strategy employed against KT for the whole year. So it makes sense that T1 tries to go for it. But once that ultimate misses, you can't keep forcing it. Perfect, able to stay alive, doesn't really take any meaningful damage, and his reinforcements ensure KT now up 5-1.
We were thinking there was so much talk about T1 and the possible 3P and 4 finals in a row, and how their advantage is going to be how confident they will be under these bright lights. But KT are playing this game number 1 like they're the most confident I have ever seen.
Which is so impressive when we look back at the media day at the press conference, and Peter was talking about how Carrier is perfect in every way. The only thing he had going for him was supposed to be his rookie spirit, but he's been first on the map. He is paired up with Cuz so incredibly well. Now almost a 2,000 gold lead for KT. T1 not out of it yet, but sent reeling in an early game where they gave the ideal top side to the side of KT, even after 3 targeted mid lane bans.
And it's honestly impressive. I really like the angle from Peter, who, again, debuted in 2022. And obviously, this is his first World Final, as we have seen many a time, which is still, to me, a heartwarming fact. Had never actually taken a plane out of Korea until he got to Worlds. But thus far, we're actually seeing, I think, coming into the draft, we were looking at what is the comfort going to be, and thus far the comfort has worked out in favor of KT, and what is the bot lane matchups going to look like. And when Carrier did go for this blind Poppy, we knew it was a gamble, and thus far it hasn't paid off. But in these team fights, the Poppy can still secure a numbers advantage.
KT don't have Prio in the lanes. They have enough vision to know that the objective hasn't been started, but they have to be careful at checking for fog of war. They wait to have 3 members strong. They spot Carrier, and they know that is their time to step up. Owner waiting. Gumayushi on the way in. Arrow connecting. No chance to use the Crescent Guard. It might be too late by the time Owner does it. Realm War behind, and it's BDD right on top of Owner, but Faker is there to cover. Instantly, he's sprinting out to safety as Doctem starts to rain hell onto Owner, but the Xin is too damn tanky. The objective in the sights of KD. Guma, not enough time to charge the arrow. Second Drake dropping for KT Rolster.
And T1 second smite, this time cannot find the arrow. Second Drake goes over, and it's again no hesitation from KT.
KT, I mean, they've just been so methodical in this game with their lane assignments, with their choices here for objectives. They pull the pincer closed, they trap T1, force them off, multiple flashes invested from both sides though. So I'm definitely looking at Doctem as well. This Ashe with no cleanse and no flash after this bottom side river fight. That may be an area where T1 look to try and punish him, to try and get some gold to get back into this game.
Because it does feel thus far, KT has been the one calling most of the shots. Really, even the kill that they got onto Doctem was him going in. He did get punished for that, traded. But it's really been KT on the forward. Even here, where they did not have Prio, as you highlighted, Dracos, they were still able to use the engage power of that Ashe as well as the Wukong. And I shudder to think what would have happened if Perfect had joined that fight, because the Rumble with the equalizer could have made that a lot worse. T1 was able to get out, and they will keep the gold within relative touching distance, but early Drake stacking, an incredible team fighting, team composition, and just the confidence with which KT is playing thus far is really impressive.
So I think we're going to have to keep our eyes on if T1 are able to create some pockets of vision that they can abuse and make some picks of their own. They do have Talia Wall as well as Mbessa Ultimate, very long range abilities here to try and make some of those picks. Gumayushi as well, fairly good at this Varus and throwing out those skill shots. So we'll see if they can actually punish the Ashe in mid. So far, I'd say Doctem is playing incredibly well. Look how safe he is being on the Ashe. right now when he had nobody near him, he backed off to his tower, even with nobody showing. He's got his hawk shot, and KT have plenty of vision for him up through the top side of mid lane, giving him that safety where he can just kind of hug that wall. And so I feel like KT are almost removing any of these comeback options, these avenues for T1, because they know that's what they're looking for. But BDD!
Doran full committing. The root does manage to connect. Doran can't keep the dive, but BDD is not going to over push here.
Nice force by Doran. Gets his ult off, and BDD forced the flash. A big win there, because that does mean some of the engages of T1 a lot more scary.
Exactly. Plus, you know, maybe picking someone off in a side lane, not just looking at that mid lane here with another flash down.
Very important for T1 that in a deficit like this, although not game-ending, that they can find these avenues for individual outplays. But now it's Doran's flash traded back. BDD came back to lane. Redemption coming down to heal him up. Major cooldown that will not be available, crucially, for this Herald. KT are already on it, and they've just been one step ahead of T1 the entire game.
Herald guaranteed, and what is the counterplay for T1 even? With Doran being pushed off of the top side of the map, there's not much for them to get except for a Scuttle Crab. Bottom side mid wave is not even going to get pushed all the way in.
Doran,
That's 4 people!
Overstaying, concussive blows, the Cyclone immediately comes out as well. Doran can't push a single button! KT merciless on the dive. Doran caught asleep at the wheel, overconfident. T1 trying to fire back for first tower, but it's KT who get it.
They've got the boot upgrades already, and they get the tower early here. 2,000 now the gold lead. The Dragon stacking continuing. KT in game number 1. The coaster does keep going up, Chronicler.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, what goes up eventually. Oh, arrow doesn't
Nice
hit.
sidestep Peter there in time to body block if necessary.
But I want to highlight, what did this cost for T1? So Doran TP's top to try and salvage this turret, right? Stall. If there's 2 people there, he can probably at least keep it alive long enough for his team to win it. But he TP's in. Then Faker also has the TP towards top to prevent them from taking down the inner. So now T1 not going to have those available for any upcoming fight. In about a minute, the possible soul point for KT is spawning.
And credit to T1, they're leveraging the power of the bar as well in the mid lane. They've consistently had mid-prio. They've used it to chunk away at that turret, chip away at that potential objective. Losing out on the boots is very unfortunate, but need to see if KT can keep this momentum going, because this is the pocket of vision you were talking about. Already set up by T1. One step ahead when it comes to this objective and the control they have over the area. KT might just give it. Only now are they getting control of mid lane.
Yeah, at the middle stage of the game, the team fights are definitely still very winnable here for T1. There has not been this huge break point that KT have hit, even though they do have a very nice lead in this one. You know, Cuz does not have his full second item completed on the Wukong just yet, so it is still about positioning and execution as they look towards this Dragon Soul point. 4 seconds on the arrival of the Mounted Dragon, and Rifthold is used mid for priority.
Wall to try to block the initial charge. Is just going to deny that. Well played. Good piece of mind by Faker to deny that potential prio point. It still does mean, however, that KT get access first to the objective. Owner, Guma, Faker, Keria all ready to go. Keria's ulti, you highlighted it earlier, can be crucial, can deny some of the members of KT access to the pit here, but it's a very slow, drawn-out secure. BDD marking Doran on the flank. Arrow starting to rain. Peter getting chunked out. A flashback from Perfect. T1 chipping away at those resources. Eyes on the equalizer. Redemption now used. Cooldown up just in time. KT keeps going, but now they want to turn it right back. Instantaneous equalizer. Keria locked up. Rumor coming in, but denied. Keria wants to knock Perfect out of the fight, but it might not matter because it's Doran into the back line. Owner stays standing. Cuz take it down. T1 fired back.
No matter the early deficit, T1, they still win the team fight. They still get the Dragon, and they're looking for BDD.
On the hunt for BDD, but there's just nowhere for him to go in the blink of an eye. KT's lead disappears.
And KT, they walk into the pincer. That objective just a little bit too juicy, but they will pay for it very heavily as the attempted engage onto Keria is stopped by his W.
How clutch are they? Look at Owner starting it out with the Xin ultimate to spread them apart, and Doran following it up on his Mbessa, and they split apart the team fight so meticulously, and they immediately steal the objective on top of it.
Frustration on the face of KT, not the end of the world, but the goal a lot closer now. We look back at that team fight. Owner, a hero, Guma raining down arrows, but also Doran was getting focused, made a mistake TPing to the top side, bounced right back in that fight to be critical for that T1 advantage.
You saw Xin in the trailer, right?
Yup.
Xin, some new lore. Maybe Owner is the main character.
And I want to highlight what you said earlier, Kobe, because it was really, if you looked at the actual item finishes, basically everyone in the game was sitting on like an item and a couple of components. So if KT have maybe a couple more breakpoints that they've hit, could have been a difference maker. Now T1, slight gold lead, but I do think it's again important to remind everyone that I do still love the KT Cup when it comes to the actual 5v5, but we are seeing if Doran and/or Owner can get on that backline, can get on top of Dokdam and BDD, the fights are basically unplayable for KT.
Yeah, and the reason we keep highlighting a lot of the setup players here for this team is because if you do have good setup for Taliyah, Faker's Taliyah, the combos are so deadly. And Faker this tournament as well has been able to do a lot of raw Taliyah Ws to find picks and find burst damage.
Guys.
So let's see about the approach to the Otacon.
Otacon, for now, just the ward.
Doran is getting the top tower at the moment, so that is going to be guaranteed gold here for T1.
And this is the struggle of playing against T1. Their movement around the map is so confident. KT need to be ready to pull the trigger, and they have. Otacon started. A big risk. Doran resetting back to base, likely to finish the second item before he TPs into the fight if needed. Owner in the area. It might come down to just a 50-50, but Faker also has access to the Weaver's wall critically. No flash for Dokdam. No flash for Cuz. KT luckily able to reset the objective, but I don't think they're going to get a chance to leave quite yet. T1 know they have an advantage in the fight if it comes down to the 5v5. Flash forward, ulti into the back, immediately things get kicked off, but Peter does his best to heroically disengage. It is not enough to keep Dokdam standing. Cuz taken out as well. Doran in the 3v1, completely and totally unfazed. Carrier there to stop any further follow-up. Faker taking down Perfect, and BDD is not enough to stop T1.
And it's the Crook Lord that finds his mark. Dokdam goes down, and T1 turn onto Otacon.
Doran, the addition to this T1 roster, annihilated him.
Hello.
Resetting, resistance is shredded by the Otacon. Carry a ward over the wall, spots out Cuz. T1 know it's a 50-50 now. 5 seconds on Dokdam, but he doesn't have access to a TP to make it to the fight any faster. Perfect
BDD
TP available. BDD finds the angle into Doran. Carry now backing up. 3K on the objective. Getting lower. Steadfast presence gone. Faker on the backside. Cuz wants to try to make it out of this one, but now they're moving into advantage. Take out Guma. No, Guma living. Wants to finish him. Looking for a bit more damage, but T1, they find the double for Carrier. They take the Thornbound Otacon, and Perfect. It is too little. It is too late.
Baker teleports in and he saves the team fight. He gets that shove. They get the Otacon.
And KT try their darndest to get that objective, not able to do so. And so many cooldowns used there as well. That's going to set up perfectly for T1. 3.5K gold lead. 1 minute till the next Mountain Dragon. And now T1, it feels like they're in full control.
What a fight, what a scramble. BDD makes a heads-up play, flashing onto Doran to get the first kill of the fight. And then T1 are communicating the teleport arrival from Faker. Look at Owner running away so that Cuz can't find burst damage onto him. And once Faker comes in and gets a double shove.
And that shove ends the fight immediately. They were a member up. And Perfect, if he was alive just a little bit earlier, could have been the difference maker, but not in time. And T1 now with the biggest lead we've seen in this game so far.
After that 4K gold lead on top of a discrepancy of 38 petals, 40-2.
Oh my God.
Nearly 8K in gold and an additional effective stats or XP from those petals. A nearly unstoppable advantage. Luxury items coming through. The Seeker is there for Faker. Perfect's utilized in the previous fight. Things are getting dark for the side of KT. They're going to fight back to the bottom lane to try to get vision of this area. They could not secure the third Drake, but they desperately want the soul point. They spot Faker on the flank. One more fumbled fight might just take them out of this game entirely.
Cuz is getting chunked, already took an arrow. Faker's looking to split the fight.
7K. Cuz gonna have a hard time healing back up that chip damage.
Reset.
Does have access to the Sundered Sky. Objective reset now. Eyes on those support cooldowns as well. Carry his ulti. The Unbreakable for the Braum will be important as T1 already getting mid-prio. Doran fishing for the flank once again. Ready to come over the wall with the public execution. Carrier going into the wall, locking up Cuz. Instantaneous knockup A flawless combo to keep it going. Duckdown finally escapes, but he just finds himself in a 1v1 versus Doran. Hope fading fast for the side of KT as Keria is still standing. Perfect and BDD running for the hills. T1 grabbing their second Drake, but Owner not done yet. Knocks Peter out as well.
And Cuz just doesn't get to play the game. Keria, who we haven't talked about in a bit, had a rough start to the lane. I'm thinking now the Poppy pick really works out. He's the one that settled the pick onto the Wukong, and he gets CC'd 100-0.
Keria Poppy, my boy. Oh my goodness, what an engage. Honestly, let's watch it again, guys.
As look at the combo here, and it's the immediate follow-up that to me seals the deal, right? It's Doran is ready, Owner's there, Faker sets up the wall for the sandwich, and even though BDD and Perfect are trying their best, again, without that Wukong, without that front to back, in these messy skirmishes, T1 is just reigning supreme.
The confidence in each other is what really makes this team elite here for T1. You said it, no hesitation from them. They all go in at the same moment. They all find the engage, they find the kills, and they find themselves almost 5,000 gold in the lead.
It's not just that, look at the levels. Doran is 2 levels up, Owner is 2 levels up, BDD is kind of okay, and indeed, as Kobe nicely points out to me, we already talked about it's 43-2, right? So BDD is the only one that's even because of the Roa, and now, as T1 does, they're gonna start up this Baron.
And it's a terrifying position for KT because they know if a single member of their team makes a misstep, the fight very likely ends. The Braum was supposed to be the tool that stopped this dive from Doran, that stopped the dive from Owner from coming through, but if T1 are the ones to kick it off, it just has not been enough.
Seen this one before. Yeah, they don't dare to go for it. We've seen this exact bait a million times. Obviously, Faker does a flash. If they try to arrow, could have made it out, but they don't want to go for it.
Yeah, Faker with his arm guard has a couple of ways to buy some time if you overextend going for the chase. But then you look at the mentality on the other side as KT, and you kind of have to go for one of these plays to pick someone off out of position. You have to hope that you're going to be able to surprise someone with an Ashe arrow and immediately delete them.
When we're looking at Doctom, you highlighted it, that's the arrow. The sustained damage that Ashe can bring to the table is, of course, impactful, even on 2 items. But none of these fights have been long fights. He's been deleted at the start of every single one. So finding that advantage, finding that additional member in a fight, making sure it is a 5v4 in the favor of KT, crucial for the next fight. The combo is still there. The Cyclone, the Equalizer. You can see how KT can find advantage, but it just has not been working out past the 15-minute mark.
I also love that Keria Poppy has the most kills of any single player in the entire game.
Feels apt.
Battle Poppy, baby.
Yeah, look at his items. That helps, right?
Uh-huh, the redemption.
The redemption locket as they're going to start it up.
He's got the TP, he's got the heal, he's ready to move across the map and make plays. Eyes on the Keeper's verdict to see if they can force Cuz out of the pit. 7K, objective getting lower. Owner isolated. Faker off to the side, likely going to have to use the arm guard. Extra shield coming in. Faker stone cold as he holds the cooldown. Doctam starting to push forward, but he really doesn't have too much damage. Eyes on Perfect and Cuz, the Equalizer, the Cyclone. T1 moving through the choke point, but KT don't have the vision they need. Finally, the ward dropped as T1 once again take control of mid, but happy to just trade a few cooldowns and back away.
And it was the resilience of KT that got them the win against Gen G. That game looked dire as well. TP comes in from Faker, won't have his ult, Zona goes in.
Catch him out, Unbreakable used to kick off the fight. That's the ulti from Gumayushi. Good response coming in from Perfect, but the damage not really enough. Ulti does not connect from Doran. Knockback from Keria takes BDD out of the equation. And once again, it's Doran on top of Doctam. Concussive blows, buy him an additional second. Perfect running, the flick back likely to come through as Faker tries to get the damage down, but now he finds himself in a brief 2v1. Goes Golden. Knocked back into the wall! Keria there right in time as KT are effortlessly dismantled. Doran dropping Perfect as well.
And they're going to at least get the shove. I was kind of wondering whether they wanted to play for the end, but not going to be the case. TP's toward the Baron, and T1 about to close out this game.
Yep, that's a T1 Baron, all right. Here's another look. Owner starts it out early, knowing that they have the rotation up from Faker as well. And so bottom side of the fight, you see Faker coming over while Owner, his ultimate actually expires, and they trade 1-for-1 on those junglers. But since Faker's able to section off the rest of the KT members here, Perfect has to flash, and BDD doesn't get a chance.
And BDD, he flashed onto Owner trying to take him down, but just wasn't perfectly in range. Didn't actually do any damage to him. and then got taken out of the fight, I think, by the Poppy, which meant that they were severely lacking damage there.
And again, Faker, perfect knowledge of his cooldowns in that extended fight. Waits for the Seraph, knows it'll save him. Still has access, crucially, to the Zanyas when BDD and Perfect try to go all in. But now, the Hail Mary, KT betting it all. 5 members strong, but it's a Baron buff empowering T1. As long as they buy time here, they're chipping away at that Red Bull Baron power play. Objective getting lower. Owner waiting over the wall to divide the team coming in from Faker. Denied a bit by Peter, and it's Owner now on the flank looking for Cuz. Not sure if he's found him. Cuz turning right back onto Owner. Owner instantaneously into the back line. The concussive blows there, as is the perfect execution. Carry in the thick of it. Gumayushi and Faker untouched coming over the wall, but it's Faker. Full confidence is the flash, but unfortunately the flip back goes wide. Doran turns it right back with a sundering blow. KT pulling away. Man advantage for the side of T1 being ushered out. Carrier wants to deny it, but he will only be able to isolate Perfect. The Baron still backing them up. The Dragon in their sights. T1 once again taking a fight.
And an attempt from KT to maybe get a soul point because T1 took that Baron. Not going to end up working out. That's going to be triple Mountain Drakes to come through here. The turn onto Owner actually ended up working out decent, but it's Gandora and is always there to help out his jungler.
Yeah, and he's just annihilating Doctum fight after fight after fight. So even when Owner goes down in the sacrifice, they're able to pull it back. Look at the burst damage there as well at the end. And then Chronicler, once again, Perfect is left out. Well, the rest of the team escapes in the Realm Warp on the edge.
And you can see there's so much damage from this KT top side, but I guarantee if we were to look at the healing, the Owner, that Sundered Sky is doing a ton of work. The shielding coming in from Doran, making it so impossible for KT, even when they spot that member isolated, even when they think that someone like Owner has overstepped, they just cannot finish these crucial kills. On top of that, their reliance on magic damage to burst through health bars being very heavily mitigated by the double Maw of Malmortius for Doran and Owner respectively.
In the moment that Dogdom's taken out of the fight, Cuz alone can't really do enough AD damage. And guess what? He's been taken out every single time. As being Ashe against all these dive threats, T1, even though the very early skirmish didn't go their way, are now marching on KT's base.
Final wave of this Red Bull Baron power play. Brought in the mid lane from Faker. Wall to isolate the tower. They want to break open the space, limit the options for KT. T1 outplaying in the fights, and now that they have a lead, they're not looking to give anything away. 3 minutes on the next Baron, 3 minutes on Soul for T1. Is Faker still fishing for the flick back, for the seismic shove? But KT running out of options fast. The damage has not been enough. The positioning, the setups just have not been good enough, and T1 have been more than happy to punish and tear apart this KT team.
So telling that KT is still stuck at 2 pedals, because ever since T1 has gone to control, they haven't been able to play the game. They've just been locked out of objectives, locked out of lanes, and now it's hard to imagine a world where this game 1 can go their way. T1 with the resilience, the experience of this roster. Again, 4 of which were 1 game away from making it 5 Worlds Finals in a row, which would have been even more silly. But their 4th is not bad either.
Definitely not too shabby. Let's take a look, though, because we're going to teleport up to the top side and look to get our ending push in for T1. Quite probably, as they rotate everybody over to this corner of the map. Bot side, BDD trying to buy some time since the inhibitor is down in this lane. He's pushing it out to try and hopefully for KT set up one of many defenses that they're going to need to fight their way back into this game.
Perfect, going to use the equalizer to clear the way, but it will not stop the tier 2 tower from falling. Does give a bit more time to BDD to get a tower back in response, securing a bounty, but it's still a 9,000 gold difference. I don't even care about the pedal math anymore. All you need to know is it is a lot. It is a lot of lead for the side of T1, and for KT, it will take a miracle or a misstep from the side of T1 to bring them back.
And you already kind of start to think about drafts for the rest of the series as well, as we are in Fearless. And we're seeing why so many teams ban Poppy versus Keria. But then you're thinking, okay, yeah, Keria, he had amazing Poppy ultimates this game.
Yeah.
He had amazing engages, but are you going to give him Nico? No. Are you going to give him Bard? No. Are you going to give him Renata? It's so hard. This player is just so good.
He got 4 bans in our first draft. Alistair, Renata, you highlighted the Bard and the Nico as well. Obviously, those first 2 a bit more contextual, but when his 5th pick is winning games and team fights, It's a reminder to why this player is held in such high regard, and a reminder to what a glow-up in form he has had. Domestic Keria was solid, right? Still a good support. But this version of Keria, world class.
Faker also has 100% kill participation on the Talia, by the way. Full 20 for 20 there.
That's 18.
Just kidding. That's why you don't do math.
I was about to say. It's okay. It's okay.
That Keria double kill didn't count. We don't give that one. That one, those two just
It
didn't
happens
count.
to the best of us.
I felt like
Don't
we
worry
needed a
about it.
comedic break.
Yeah, because barring a KT steal of this next dragon, the game will end on maybe Baron, definitely Mountain Soul.
We do see a Vamp Scepter for Doc Dom, some Grievous Wounds as well, maybe help him heal back up, but of course the range discrepancy is big, but more importantly, third item coming in for Cuz, fourth item for BDD, that death cap. Maybe now if they catch someone out from T1, they'll be able to finish those crucial kills. However, you have the pressure point on the top side from Faker. In the bottom lane, super minions are barreling in. KT, if they make a single wrong choice, they're likely to lose something regardless of the outcome.
And this is just going to be gone if they don't make a play. It's going to be a big Realm Warp. But you're Realm Warping possibly straight into your Doom, and they're not even going to get the chance!
Cuz taken out of the equation, 6K getting lower. KT start to flounder. They decide it's not worth it. They decide they don't want it. Instead, they're going to turn their sights to the Drake, spawning in 4 seconds. T1 already have secured the Baron on the back of a Keeper's Verdict from Keria. Now they might just look to end it here. Flash forward. Perfect execution. Aptly named as Doc Dam takes him down. KT now chasing out as well. BDD trying to well more back into the rest of the team. But Keria once again there to interrupt. Doran unfazed by the magic damage of BDD. It's a double kill coming through. Perfect and Cuz, the last two left standing. But a TP into the base to bring back and seal the deal in game one. T1, what a performance.
And Perfect running for the hills. I don't think his survival is gonna matter as Doran and Keria show a masterclass in this game one. The lane for both, I think, looked a little precarious, but those team fights, man. That's a smile on the face of T1's top laner.
Doran was a heat-seeking missile in this game. He found Doctum over and over and over. Analysts, how are you feeling about game number one?
Well, Kobe, T1 is firing on all cylinders, stepping into this final, doing what they do best, honestly, performing in World's Finals and beating
Range, they can try and go for some poke damage early as well and try and force the shorter range T1 squad to do the engaging on them and look for a possible counter.
As we get into game two here, remember to log in to your Riot account on lolesports.com and watch Worlds live to earn exclusive World emotes, icons, and capsules.
Ooh.
But you might not have time. You might want to wait until after whatever is happening here continues to happen, because Keria running for his life. Faker there to body block any potential follow-up damage. Standard comes down, gives enough information to know that KT is backed away, but KT making an aggressive level 1 play to seize control of this early jungle.
And we do see KT again going for a very aggressive invade. These level 1 plays in the early laning phase was something where KT was just straight up better in game number 1. So to try to leverage that again. Not really going to lean to anything meaningful this time around. Keria didn't have anything forced. He will be there with the main wave. So unfortunately for KT, no big advantage found as Perfect doing a little bit of scouting here, but they are on the ward, so I don't think either Faker or Owner is going to fall for anything. And no swaps to come through, and we do have both junglers again pathing from that top side towards bot.
And reminder for anyone who didn't keep up with KT, who has just been here for this fever dream of a run to finals, that while everyone has stepped up with this lineup at Worlds, it was the mid-jungle that really brought this team together, that got them across the finish line. And when you look at Cuz and BDD, right, these are guys who have played together for so damn long, and now anytime KT's backs are against the wall, these are the players that we look at to really make the difference and stand up.
Certainly so. Such a long history playing together, multiple teams, multiple years, and they really do trust each other and have talked about how much it means to them to be here on this stage.
And it's also recently a story of almost, right? As we're going in again.
Of level 2 on the bottom side as well. Doctum and Peter getting aggressive. Ezreal, before that first back where he has to invest money in tier, can be so lethal as long as those Mystic shots are connecting.
They are there. And this time it's Doctom that actually wins the arm race, right? He's the one with teleport, and Gumayushi doesn't, because as Ezreal you are given the liberty of doing so because your kit has a built-in escape. That's something that I think T1, even though it wasn't necessarily that flashy. Did actually end up using very well. We saw them out macro KT once they got control, really applying a ton of pressure to the lanes. As right now, both junglers pathing towards that bot side, and Guma not having flash available might be looking for something there because both of them very strong early ganks as well.
Definitely true. Cuz continuing to clear out the red buff. And really need to continue to keep our eyes on the bottom lane. The flash, of course, expended. The heal expended, so a potential vulnerable point. Meanwhile, on the top side, Perfect, a lot of sustain, but really hasn't been able to wrest control of the lane in terms of overall priority. Constantly, however, threatening the knockup just to stop Doran from forcing this wave all the way in.
Yeah, the sustain on Rek'Sai, so nice. And these tank matchups will eventually start to whittle him down and look for the extra pressure there. Meanwhile, speaking of pressure,
Owner wrapping around BDD. False sense of security because his bot lane is moving first, but the jungler already there. Nice initial sidestep, flash backwards onto Faker. The root connects. Good damage from BDD, but he can't quite finish the kill. And the flash expended means advantage to the side of T1.
You'll take that if you're Owner. That means that once you hit 6, that is a Mel without an escape. If you do find your ultimate, BDD will be able to maintain his pressure on this lane, but he does have to pay for it heavily.
and the critical part is that T1, they don't overextend the play because Cuz and Peter were on the way there,
Guma
and now
lane.
they're looking at Guma.
Guma. KT getting aggressive, just knocking down Gumayushi, taking first blood as Peter flawlessly turns into the Canyon minion to eat countless tower shots.
We've seen this so many times, and it actually does get old seeing that happen again. Nico turning into the cannon so you can get that massive.
I'm right there with you, Kobe. It does get old.
You can just keep tanking tower shots. This one wasn't too egregious because they didn't have to take quite as many, but they pull off that play. And this was, again, Peter and Cuz playing together. They had linked up and they were looking to counter the mid play. Then after the mid play, they just turn their sights, wrap around towards bottom side of the map, and they find the value there.
Now T1 resetting, putting Guma on the top side, knowing that he needs a bit more time. This is one of the downsides of Sivir. We know her to be this wave clear machine. She can take control of mid. She can empower these dive threats, and she can be a late game carry. But early on, if she falls behind, she doesn't do a lot. T1 trying to get some more resources in Gumayushi's pocket, trying to give him time to stack the coal so that he can be relevant in the fights to come.
And KT are off to another good start here. And for them, I imagine coming in, Scores has talked to them to. The early game was great. A lot of the things there went well. We were able to generate a lot of leads across the board. Early dragon stacking plus the grubs, but it was actually following through and not giving T1 any opportunities. We know how much resilience this team has. We've seen them do it again and again and again at Worlds. As a little bit of damage on the door, but he's silent in a 1v2, so he'll be fine. So for KT, that's my test. The objectives early, I trust that they can get, but can they actually keep that pressure up?
And this is one of the advantages of the Scion, right? No real hard CC to interrupt the decimating smash here in that bottom lanes means Perfect can be more at risk when he steps forward to clear. Luckily for him, however, Gumayushi is behind. There's not a lot of damage threat there. And it's Peter playing with fire, roaming into T1 jungles, giving perfect information to Cuz. Owner might have a false sense of security here, doesn't have information on Cuz. Peter now committing a little bit more. Q over the wall, the vault breaker, immediate route to follow, but Owner going to flash to safety, uses the smite to secure the grubs.
Would you say worth?
I would say definitely worth. I mean, Peter and Cuz, again, we keep on highlighting
No, for Owner, because he got Grump. Yeah, come on, Kobe. You're a jungler.
I'm going to go, yeah, sure, I'll go worth there for Owner, flash for Grump. But honestly, highlighting, Peter and Cuz once again, doing the setup work there for the jungler to come over, and we'll see. Can they actually punish?
And actually, yeah, I love this from T1 because last time it was KT that were set up early in River where they were able to generate some big leads. This time the trap is the opposite. Perfect has made his way onto Guma, but just doesn't have the damage yet. Not enough items yet to actually friend this Sivir, but does get the barrier.
Crucially does get that summoner. It is a small advantage, but it could matter in the next few minutes. T1, as you highlighted though, get the initial setup, get the initial vision down, so know that they're safe here to take the first Drake of the game. KT with a small gold lead, but T1 balancing it out with this Cloud Drake. Cuz on the top side means no contest to come through, and T1 doing a better job of not giving away too much control in this game too.
Dragon secured in the aftermath, and now you also get your level 6 here for Owner, so we'll see if they can actually apply that pressure to the mid lane. They did burn BDD's flash, but look at it, it's almost back up here, a quarter of the way to go for BDD, and Cuz is doing the work to get him some extra vision around mid lane, try and bridge that extra little timer, the window where you would be vulnerable to a J4 ultimate.
Might have also been the reason why KT, they really didn't want to commit to that fight, because if Owner just ults onto BDD, and Faker gets on top of him. Like, what do you do? There isn't really any counterplay for the Mel, who, again, likes to play at range, slowly stack up that passive. Ultimate is available for BDD, so that execute might end up being valuable in the fights to come, and there is that stolen Nico. I think by far the best out of all of those, unless you really want to go for a very specific play with like the Vile. But generally, that Nico ult gets so much value. Silas has many ways to get on top of his opponents. Between his rocket belters, there he goes.
Middle, on to Peter, catches the real target, carry there for the follow-up. Flash out from Peter, forced to use the heal as well. And of course, while he's really far away from that ultimate, not having that for the fight when he finally does, that flash is going to be critical.
Yeah, double summoners off of the Nico, off of Peter could be very big. Is going to mean that KT will start up these grubs though, and Peter heals up off those honey fruit.
And Faker doesn't have his ultimate available, so that might be the reason why T1 is a little bit hesitant. And also, this time, their skirmishing just isn't quite as strong, right? In the previous game, I think that they had so much power there.
BDD.
Not quite the case here.
Getting aggressive, access to the golden clips is there. Wants to reflect a bit of the damage back onto Faker, but not quite in kill range yet. Crucially though, Faker no flash because of the previous play. Cuz still does have access to that ulti as we hear the farm alarm on the top side. Doran there just in time to clear out the wave.
I like it. You know, we're setting up some of these early fights, or really, I wouldn't call them, for the LCK standard, these are fights.
Yeah, it's fair.
You know,
Early
for me,
fist fights, an
yeah,
absolute
yes.
bloodbath.
Yes.
1 kill at 9 minutes.
I'm glad you guys are appreciating it with me. That's very nice. But we are seeing
less a war, more of like a telecom skirmish. Telecom scouting mission.
a telecom polite, you know, discussion between you two. Oh, you will take Dragon? We will take Grubs. That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Deal. Honestly, though, I think we might be in for a long stretch of farming for Guma.
Yeah.
You know, you talked about it earlier on. The Sivir here does need multiple items to really have that extra pressure, and the team is built around a Sivir Lulu comp here. While there's possibilities elsewhere.
Nice side set from BDD, just barely able to get away. Vault Breaker coming in for Cuz, opts not to flash. The turn back from Owner is solid. Faker now on the way in himself, trying to use the golden clips to keep things going. The Ezreal ulti across the top. BDD grabbing one. Faker will turn it back, but he's under the tower, and it's Cuz to take him down.
And it's the subterfuge from KT. Cuz actually spotted that Owner was there. So BDD says, let's go for the play. He's ready to make sure that Owner and Faker don't get on top of him. And once they do, they're too close to the turret, and it's a big win for KT.
Yeah, nicely done by BDD, flashing under, and then roots Faker under the tower so that they can get the 2-for-1, get the 3 kills here for the Feats of Warfare in the aftermath. And this is even with the beginning of the play is actually quite nice from Owner because he uses his Unstoppable from Jarvan ultimate to avoid the CC from Cuz as he comes back in. But then Faker into the tower range, and BDD is able to at least root him before he goes down.
And it's BDD starts it up with a 2-man root, and then also is the one that secures it. And for me, nothing tells the story of these two players together more than Cuz like, BDD, I'll flash. It's fine. I'm going to set you up for that kill. I'm going to make sure you get your execute, and I'm going to make sure that we win this play.
And while earlier on we had about 1,000 gold lead for KT, it hadn't resulted in any major item completion, so the game still felt close. But now it's Cuz with the Sundered Sky ahead of schedule, ahead of the next Drake in 1 minute, and that is a massive early game spike.
Cuz again, I mean, he started last game with a really early spike as well. The Wukong, lots of early money, got to the Trinity Force very early on, and it just came down to the Dragon fights where T1 were able to turn around. This time around, though, since they're running the Sivir, and we do kind of project a longer term for T1's kind of attempts at the turnarounds, this probably should be KT with some really comfortable setups. Look at how deep their vision is on the bomb side of the map, and attempting another dive.
He's low, but reinforcements, I think, will be on the way, and it looks like the wave isn't in a position for them to actually make it happen. As Perfect, a little scared there, but Doran can't clear the wave in time. But Faker being this low does mean that Prio is there for KT. He does have TP, but they're not letting him.
No mana for Doc Dom, still advancing forward, knowing that he has Peter behind him to cover. Will now retreat. Tension starts to fade, top side, the TP coming back from Doran, checking in on the sums. Obviously no flash for BDD, no flash for Cuz. Owner's flash available, could be big in the coming fights. Completed items for both sides, jungle mid.
Oh, this is big though, because Doran at the TP top, he can use his ultimate to join the fight, but Perfect actually finishes a Titanic Hydra, and thanks to the proxy, will be trying to arrive as soon as possible, even without TP available.
No vision control of the pit. Finally a ward is dropped, but it might not matter. Peter with flash available.
There's the ult.
Cuz off to the side. Ulti from Doran's not going to catch anybody, but it might have zoned KT away enough. Doran likely to give his life here, but the Drake already down in favor of T1. On the hunt, popped. Perfect tunneling out to safety. T1 got what they came for. They're going to make a hasty retreat. They don't want the 5v5. Content trading that ulti of Doran for the Drake.
We'll see if they're able to get anything out of it, or if that is just going to be it. KT don't expend any major cooldowns. I think BDD and Doctum we're going to have to TP regardless. We'll get Doran's ult, but that's not really enough. The prio will continue, but 2 Drakes early for T1. Definitely a big win.
Yeah, nice setup, and then, as you say, Doran coming down. Good ultimate from him to zone them off, secure it.
Ulti to cancel carry is reset. Doctum going to push one more wave. Likely has the Trinity Force in base, but just wants to deny a few more resources from Guma, who has done a good job of evening out what was an early game deficit. Has picked up the Essence Reaver, can essentially infinitely wave clear in mid if he's able to access that creep wave.
What do you see Doctum shoving this wave? Looking for his base. Trinity Force will be ready for the Ezreal. 1 item spikes to come through for every member of KT. Close to for T1 as well. Really only waiting for Doran. Neither support has that yet, as in about a minute, this Herald fight, I think, going to be a big breaking point. And we'll see if T1 needs to fight out. Do again want to echo T1. I don't think need to fight this, but knowing them, I think it's fairly likely that they will.
Would be fun to watch for sure. Trinity Force spike for Doctum, definitely very big here, so we expect KT to go set up towards that side of the map fairly quickly here. Only 45 seconds left on the clock, so they're going to transition their extra resources over this way. Doctum and Peter here first control the mid wave, and then wait for Cuz to rotate.
Keeping good pressure, of course. That Trinity Force completed is big. Hard for Guma to step up, even with the shielding that Keria can provide. Luckily for them, at least, Guma has the red buff, a bit of extra sustain. The battle over mid-prio has begun. Remember in Game 1, it was Guma on the lethality bars, infinitely pushing mid-waves that made so much of KT trying to advance that lead feel pretty impossible.
This time it's Doctum that can do it into 1v2, right? Being Ezreal, being really hard to punish. I also want to echo, last game it was the Poppy. This time for Keria, on the Lulu, offensively, he doesn't get to have nearly as much agency, but he can kind of fulfill the same role. And Cuz is currently sitting on the biggest individual lead we have in the game. If he goes in too aggressively and he gets hit by either the Poppy W, he gets ulted on, and gets knocked in the air by a wild growth, he needs to be very careful about how he picks his fights because, again, T1, there's only 2 big carries, but this early on, the damage is still there as BDD.
BDD potentially caught out, layering into CC a little bit off. BDD unstoppable for a brief moment, ready to use the ulti, but Faker has stolen one away. The goal in the clips, but the follow-up is there from Peter. Makes it a 1-for-1. Vault Breaker coming in. Faker just CC'd for an eternity. The Kingslayer healing not available in time as Cuz is on a killing spree.
So T1's idea was to make the quick play before the Rift Herald fight, but KT, they close the trap, they get 2 back for themselves, and the teleport from Doran does signal they want something.
I need to
Doran
be careful.
Tower going to fall. Likely not enough damage to kill Doran, but at least zoning him away as they set their sights on the objective. Herald already started. Cuz will secure it uncontested.
I did get tricked by Peter being Mel there. I'm like, oh, 11, good amount of... No, they don't have damage. The play still works out, though, very nicely for KT. They get Doran's TP, they're able to get topside turret, and Herald, this time there's no Talia in the game. That mid lane turret feels like it's sure to fall. And whereas last time, KT wasn't able to actually break the game, it feels like this time they're closer than they were able to in Game 1 as this turnaround and the reinforcements for KT were beautiful.
Again, T1, they want to go after BDD. They want to take down the star player there for KT. But it is the rest of the team that assembles and they get there in time. T1 knew that KT were trying to do vision setup work over by the Rift Herald. So they knew they had to make that play really quickly. But being unable to do so means that not only do they lose the extra kill, but they also lost the objective. So now Rift Herald Eyeball in Cuz's inventory will allow KT to really press this lead. That thing basically is going to guarantee you another tower, and they can truly open up this gold lead.
Owner doing what he can with the standard to regain control of vision. And I gotta say, BDD has been really solid on the Mel. The use of the rebuttal to buy time has made what should be an easy kill combo of this Jarvan, paired with the Sylas, really just take far too long to finish off what should be a very vulnerable control mage.
And when Faker and Owner are trying to attack him and they dive these towers, he's getting roots off on them. under tower aggro.
Of course, Cuz is the big beneficiary when it comes to those kills, though. 1.2k individual lead, BDD from the assists, and a bit of a farm advantage. Holding on to a decent lead of his own, has opted for a bit of healing reduction. Going to make things that much harder for Owner and Faker as the charge comes through.
And last time, this was the point where T1 turned the game. The lead this time is bigger for KT, but I think T1 don't want to let them get this dragon, want to get soap on themselves.
Faker's ulti available. Needs to hijack the ulti of Peter. Chip really starting to hurt onto Doran. Catch over the wall onto Cuz, the most fed member. They're immediately going to delete him, and the rest of KT try to pull the trigger, but they can't quite find the angle. BDD, docked them. They've got the range advantage. Peter waiting to peel for them if necessary. Perfect. Spots them in the darkness. The Tremor Sense showing him what he needs to see, but they've stopped moving or have moved out of range. He can't be certain now. The Q from Doran moving in. Peter still gets the ulti. It's a golden eclipse from BDD. A new dawn for KT in game 2, but T1 are unconcerned. Guma, Keria standing, the bot lane. Will it be enough? BDD trying to buy her back, but it's Gumayusi fearlessly advancing, ricocheting, tearing through the dreams of KT.
Guma with the moves at the end. He gets the extra kills and cleans up for T1.
And Keria, I think he got the timing there on the polymorph perfectly as Faker with a blind chain. The follow-up is immediate, but the most important members on KT are still alive.
That play.
As we will take a look here as they attempt to turn onto Peter. And even though it doesn't quite work up, I think Doran was looking for the flash ult. Peter gets the ult off, which allows BDD to dish their damage. But watch here, Owner's low, and Perfect can't use his ult. If he stays alive, if he's able to get the execute, maybe that could have been enough.
So close, and then the Glitter Lance slows Doctum.
Flash.
Another
so
fight
that Guma's
breaking out
able
in the
to follow.
meantime. Guma potentially caught out Cuz, looking for a bit of revenge. Owner doesn't quite make it over the wall with the flag and drag, but the ball breaker taking him to safety, and Gumayusi does not care. Look at that record at the bottom of your screen. He might have faltered in the early game. He might have been behind in game 1 and game 2, but this man is a team-fighting demon. The dragon starting to fall. Turn back from Faker as he catches out Doctom. Cuz there to try and peel, but it is too late. Owner moving in. A cataclysm across the top side. Perfectly canceled. BDD flashing over the wall. Gumayusi still living. Perfect on the chase. Peter wants to fire back. Cuz running for the hills. 2 down on the side of T1. But Guma might be enough. Perfect gets the bite. Tears right through him, and now it's Owner picked off as well. KT fighting for their lives. BDD still standing crucially. The extra damage. Doran set to fall. A double kill for the KT mid laner.
And BDD stands supreme on the mill. Stays alive through it all. And that is going to be the Otacon.
BDD said in the trailer that he was inspired to become a mid laner by Faker's play, and he was inspired to pick Mel in this game by Faker, and he's dominating on the Mel. Clutches it back up, and it's after a huge play from Faker, but BDD is able to use the ultimate to snipe him at the end.
And it's an overplay here. T1 try to force the hand. They waited in game 1, but they're not actually able to get on top of BDD. Flashes over the pit, and then Peter ensures that Perfect can get on top of Guma, and all the while BDD just stacking up the passive, getting the damage down, and this is a really crucial teamfight win here for KT.
The funniest part to me is that while BDD was chasing down the last of those kills, Cuz was actually just doing blue buff.
He was almost dead.
He was like, you guys got this. He's going to steal away the blue buff.
You got it, buddy.
Yep. They also grab the dragon in the aftermath. So KT retaking this team fight really is meaningful. They put a stop to the T1 dragon stacking.
And you can see how team fights go wrong for T1. Even though Gumayushi's been allowed to live for so long in these fights, if Doran and Owner don't quite have the damage to finish these kills, it's really hard for Guma to get in position to follow up, to chase down here. He has so many members of this team to work through, and T1, despite the deficit, have been fighting very well, but KT clearly upping their game in this draft and in this performance in game 2.
And that's one of the issues that we did see with the Sylas, right? Because you have this hyper carry in Gumayusi, who has the backup of the Lulu as well. But Faker, he's very cooldown gated, and he has been falling behind thus far, has been going for a lot of plays. And as we all know, Faker ain't no coward. He's going to keep going for those plays. But he does need to line up with the rest of his team, and I think that his role, particularly as we get deeper into the game, needs to be one of a little bit more restrained, because the damage from Doran and Owner is going to become less and less relevant as the game goes on.
Guma Yushi, the hope for T1 to carry a lot of the DPS for later on. I still think some of these looks from Faker have been good looks as far as the initial pick, but the counterplay from KT has been so good, especially in that last one, grabbing the extra kills. And now you're looking at BDD over a 2,000 individual gold lead and trying to create his death cap right now. As soon as BDD gets death cap, this Mel is already obliterating people. It is just going to delete members of T1.
Already has that XP advantage too. And this is something that it's just going to make the game so difficult for T1 because, yes, diving on the Mel is good, but if you make one mistake, we've seen he's already able to turn these fights with his damage, and that number's only going to be going up.
We're also seeing the lack of mid lane turret actually being really rough for T1, right? You need to play so much safer, especially because your support is Lulu. You don't really have the ability to just go in and face check, really easily regain control. You always need a bodyguard. You need someone to make sure. And this is, for me, also a great opportunity to really shout out Perfect, because I think his we've seen, as we highlighted coming in, Rek'Sai has been both great and very mediocre. I don't think thus far he has been able to find the backline axis as Cousin Faker wants teammates going to take a glance at one another. Nothing's going to happen now. But the Otacon already taken by KT. Their next site's going to be on either the Baron in a minute or that Dragon. Second Drake for them. Coming up at about 2 minutes.
Neither side at Soul Point quite yet, although T1 certainly would love to be set up for it, especially with that Sivir just continuing to scale. How durable those team members can become, but Baron, more important, 43 seconds, Perfect trying to push in this wave. A lot of damage to finish that tower up, and now makes it pretty easy. It's just such a goofy champ.
It is.
You want a fist fight, he just tunnels away.
I just hope that jungle Rek'Sai doesn't get nerfed for all this top lane Rek'Sai.
This is what you have to
That
accept.
we're seeing
It's
from the pros.
collateral damage, Kobe.
Be happy that she's played, okay? Having a great time,
I am.
No, no, no.
tunneling away, getting
No.
the turrets.
That's how Kobe felt about Volibear, and then look what they did to Volibear. It got nerfed.
Oh, you want to talk about it?
I do
No.
not. What I want to talk about is what you guys brought up earlier, and it is the supporting cast for BDD on this team, because it is so heartwarming hearing the interviews from all of the KT members talking about how they want to perform well for BDD so that he can shine the brightest. Peter especially talking about he really wants it for BDD because BDD deserves it. And so we've seen a lot of, the Nico play, him still just getting off Nico ultimate as he's about to die, trying to get these setup plays. Those double roots between him and BDD have been very critical. Now, though, Doran is looking at Docdom.
Docdom, unaware of the Scion, but knows that he has relative safety.
Oh.
Has to be careful about walking forward towards that brush. And
it's-
Doran, perfectly placed and baited. Docdom, far too confident.
Doran lying in wait makes Scion look like an assassin here. Walks into the charged up Q, and that is the perfect play.
Such a good sell there as well, but KT, they're turning the tables on
Forcing.
them!
Want to
Quiet.
start the sneak.
No.
Quiet.
Oh, no. I think they're
KT.
there you go, they're aware.
Now they spot it, but how quickly are they taking it? It's a Mel with a death cap.
We don't know. Look at where Owner is.
Now ready to turn back. But still, Cuz continues to hit the target. BDD ready to clear the wave. Doran not afraid to walk up. He knows they don't really have the damage to finish the kill.
Doran smells it.
Cuz 9K, but he is determined to take this objective. The blast shield keeping him relatively healthy. BDD poking off to the side. Gumayushi for now uncontested. Rebuttal already used. 4 seconds till Docdom is up and available. And he has the TP.
I actually love this stall from KT. They're able to deny the soul point.
Pulling away T1 from that dragon for now. Doran is going to go back for his recall. He was the one with the watchful eye staring at them at the Baron. KT, though, as you say, they're going to teleport right down to that dragon and start it themselves.
And I think it makes sense that T1 gives it up, because looking at the spikes, Guma didn't have his eye, he just now finishes it, and BDD did have his death cap. So fighting just before, really your main hyper carry has that crucial third item break point. Definitely not the right call, but it's really the confidence of KT to say, hey, you killed Docdom, that's fine, we're going to put some pressures. He finishes the Serpent's Fang, which against Lulu and Scion, going to get a ton of value.
And now we get to see the critical point. Can the Sivir with 3 items outplay this KT, dive plus Mel damage, because Mel has very long range. Sivir, while she does do well in team fights later on and can ricochet and make use of Lulu very well, sometimes it is hard to play around longer range champions like Mel poke damage and Ezreal poke damage here. So have to be cognizant both of the engages from the Nico as well as dodging a lot of skill shots.
And again, we're looking at Guma to be the difference. Doctom has really been kind of silenced by the attention that T1 have paid to him, by his own misstep in the mid lane. At 3 items, matching Sivir isn't really where you want to be on the Ezreal. Has gone for the Serpent's Fang, but in the face of crit itemization, it's going to be so hard to match the damage that Sivir is bringing to the table.
Everyone holding their breaths for the next team fight to see if KT can turn this gold lead into a team fight victory for one of these critical objectives. Baron is on the map. Scuttle Crabs have transformed. They can pop this and then immediately clear out the rest of the vision and then try and draw T1 over.
I love it when, we talk about these players, we're like, oh man, they're doing so, and then you look at the damage charts and like, yeah, that tracks. This to me is a breaking point for the world's title. If KT are unable to actually take this game, you're going down 0-2 against the most successful org of all time. That's perfect. Will get spotted, but is Rek'Sai, so should be okay for now. But for KT, they haven't been able to really break the game. This gold lead has, I think it was the highest, like maybe 4.5K. It's kind of been stymied, and it will all just come down to, do you kill Guma, yes or no? And with both sums up, with a Scion, with a maybe defensive ult from Faker, if he can get that Nico ult, and Keria, it's going to be easier said than done.
Absolutely. Game 1, it felt like 2 to 3K gold lead. This game, 4.5, as you said. If that's not enough to close, you start to wonder if any lead really is. T1 have not played flawlessly. Faker and Owner over pushing a bit. It's what's given BDD this massive lead on top of, being able to play those side lanes so well. But now level 16 for BDD. He has the tools. He has the damage to carry these fights. But can all of KT execute together? Because T1 thus far in the series have just been playing the team fights better.
It all comes down to this. The final series of the year for League of Legends. Can KT make their stand? They've got vision on Baron. Currently, I believe we're just awaiting the Guardian Angel completions. It should be very similar for both Owner as well as Cuz, but it's just such a huge breakpoint for junglers, both of them being the heavy engage. And so then we'll get to see at the next Dragon, the confrontation here, or if someone is able to maneuver some vision around the Baron. He's got a lot of tunnels available to him.
Nothing gonna happen for now. And maybe both teams don't want to run the risk of just starting Baron, right, with the amount of damage that's available on either side. KT, though, definitely going to play for vision here, and their damage, if BDD is there with the W from Cuz, definitely can do a lot of denting to that Baron.
TP up towards the mid lane, coming in from Doran. T1 seemingly ready and willing to force the fight here. They have bot push in their favor. They know Perfect must respond, so they have a brief window of opportunity to take control of the pit.
Interesting breakpoint, too, because Cuz finished this Guardian Angel, but Owner did not. So they have one extra life here for KT for the moment. Doesn't look like T1 are going to give them much just yet.
And because of the lack of soul point, both teams can actually just go for Baron. If the other one over-invests onto a Camtech soul, I do think that this is one of those games where particularly T1 will get a crazy amount of value out of it. Both the shielding and the amount of help that's available to healing as Cuz walks in. We'll just steal away that buff.
Takes the blue buff. Bot wave pushed in favor of KT. Top wave pushed in favor of T1. Doctom using the Ezreal ulti to try to get control of the wave, but the angle's a little bit off. Shouldn't matter too much. Mystic Shot still giving him the range advantage over Guma. Area healing up as he does get sniped by it. Well caught, Chronicler. Of course, and this is the point of the game where, as much as I would love to tell you that the center of your screen matters, this is really just about the mini-map. It's about the pushing waves. It's about who can find these little advantages. Good news for KT, getting that TP out of Doran, holding on to Perfect's TP for themselves, but they need to get more if they want to be favored in this fight.
GA's done. The third item for Faker also has a stopwatch. BDD, not a full completion quite yet, as there is perfect vision set up and the waves are pushed. So KT should be feeling good about setting up this Dragon.
Ooh, the Lord Doms just got completed by Guma as well. Big power boost here. 4-item Sivir.
Sneaking it. Oh, they're calling the bluff. They know.
Full committing. T1 now turning to Baron. They don't want to risk the contest here. Owner starting the objective. As you get into the fight, keep your eyes on the key carries, Guma and BDD. If either one falls, their team very likely to win the fight. Interrupt there, the Baron not very quick. Chemtech Drake down, Soul Point there. Might just come down to the 50-50. Cuz on the way, T1 tried to make the counterplay, but walk away empty-handed.
The poke damage is really good from KT. The double range advantage we talk about with Ezreal, with the Mel here, finding a lot of success.
The Serpent's Fang as well. And KT just called their bluff. They're like, normal teams, they see T1 start Baron, like, okay, we have to, because you know they'll commit. But KT, cognizant of the amount of damage that T1 has, and it's simply not enough. As the Soul Point of this Chemtech Soul now secured for KT.
And really double value out of that, because not only do they call T1's bluff, Perfect also able to get some pressure down on the opposite side of the map. And this is the map play that we saw from KT in the early game of Game 1, but was sorely lacking in the later stages. That said, T1 constantly on the hunt, waiting, looking for these angles. If KT make one tiny mistake, they're looking to pounce.
T1 now looking to pounce. Knocked him in the river, but he is Ezreal.
Knocked on. Pass over the wall. Peter looking to make a play. Lockdown onto Faker, looking to turn it back. Root is connected as well. Faker's been caught. Buys a brief moment with the Seekers. The rest of T1 retreating. Perfect buying the space and the tunnel over the wall. It's a heist. He buys the time to take Faker down. Doran with a decimating smash. Peter on the chase. They'll only connect onto one, but it's enough to start the fight in their favor. Gumayushi untouched, but he's now also not able to do any damage. Cuz keeping it going. KT pushing into the jungle of T1, zoning them away from the Baron as they set their sights on that Red Bull Baron power play.
They win the critical fight. They find Faker, they get the advantage, and Perfect is able to escape. Wait a second.
BDD flash. Doran forced to flash back over the wall. Sidestep on the decimating smash. Peter there to cover. Guma can't push for anything else. Doran getting chunked out. That's the ulti to seal it. BDD going godlike. Guma alone in the mid lane. Objective slowly falling. Owner zoned off. Perfect there with the knockup. Needs to lock it down. Owner's not going to have a chance. KT, it takes some time, but they take down the Baron.
In the last game, KT went for a couple of team fights. They didn't go their way, and they didn't get to play the video game. This time, it's restraint. They're waiting patiently, find the opportunity that they needed, as it is the catch onto Faker that sets it all up.
Exactly, the root into Vi combination gets his Zonias early, and then here, Perfect at the back. This is one of the best changes they made to Rek'Sai. After using your ult, your W just goes on a 1 second cooldown, so you can then use Tunnel to escape. It adds so much more survivability to the champion. Being able to escape, and on the world stage, they show it. Then the rest of KT, after they took down Faker, they could push through for the chase.
I love as well there, because maybe I think the rest of T1 could have gone for a play to try and save Faker if it wasn't for Peter also holding the angle there. You can't just walk past the Nico because Peter held his ult, and now the Red Bull Baron power play for KT, 8k, 9k gold lead here, 35 minutes in.
Guma incredibly far ahead, 4 items, has a bit of lifesteal, can clear the waves, but the range, the threat that KT can bring with the Ezreal, with Mel from BDD, 11, 3, and 3, 3,000 individual gold lead. His first competitive game looking damn good. Faker going golden. The second the chains miss, he doesn't want to push for anything else. Ball break over the wall from Cuz, ready to go, but he's not going to overextend because the mid lane's already falling. KT taking their sweet time with this one, knowing that T1 have one shot to turn this back in their favor.
It's just Guma. He's just a Sivir trying his best, but KT doesn't give him the opportunity to do any damage.
Perfect continuing to push, has access to the tunnel to escape. He's just been a thorn in the side of this T1 lineup. So many Rek'Sais haven't been able to find this level of performance, but Perfect has been a nightmare for T1 to manage. Waiting now off on the side. Takes out the control ward. A single empowered cannon minion pushing as another wave stands behind KT, ready to keep the siege going.
The siege is unrelenting from KT. The Baron buff still buffing up the cannon. The poke damage still coming through.
Owner faking the engagement, throws down the flag, misses with the Q to ensure that he doesn't go too far forward. KT don't quite break open that bot lane inhibitor.
Looks like instead they're going to base. They still have perfect timing here on the Baron. That sets up for the Chemtech Soul. That's what they're going to play towards. Mid lane inhibitor, not the best one. Faker might actually get his death cap, which would be a colossal spike for him to get. I just don't know if they're going to have an opportunity to actually contest, as, again, Perfect to me has been playing on the edge of these engages so nicely this entire game.
And the other thing to remember is that Faker had taken away Peter's ultimate in the previous fight. Now, of course, has access to the cease and desist. Now wants to make the play onto Perfect. Perfect able to get the Blast Cone out. That Mega Blast Cone keeping him healthy. KT standing strong, poking T1 as they walk into this choke point. BDD waiting for some of those major cooldowns to be used before he takes a step forward. Mega Blast Cone getting 2 members of T1 over the wall. KT retreating back down to the bottom lane as Cuz starts the objective. Flag there, spots the objective play. Faker on the flank. Perfect not going to give him the angle. KT starting to retreat. Starting to get forced backwards. Doran to kick things off. Peter to look for the interrupt. Faker using an ulti of his own to be stolen away. BDD taking out of the fight. But down goes Guma. Cuz making it work, but PD's owned away by Carrier. And all of KT now collapsing on the T1 support. At the end of the day, it is only Owner, and he cannot stop the soul.
KT get the soul, and they want the Nexus too!
Perfect continues to push down. They've learned, they've adapted, they've stayed strong in the face of the game 1 loss. KT firing back against T1, but do they have the power to end the game? Another TP, Doctum on the way. Doran giving everything to clear the waves. Owner and Carrier here. Surely the Ezreal is enough, but the creeps are falling back. Doran remains standing. T1 are not out of it yet. Doctum needs more, and he cannot get it.
Guma's up in 10 seconds. The reinforcements from T1 will arrive.
The T1 will cling on to this game. No Baron up minions means that KT, even with the damage dealers dead, does not get the opportunity to actually end. And T1 battered, but they'll get one more shot to try and deny KT a chance to equalize the series.
The roller coaster keeps going up. So look at BDD trying to kite Owner and Doran on the bottom side. Meanwhile, Peter had the massive engage, which allowed Cuz and Perfect to go kill off the Sivir.
And with Sivir taken out of the fight, really the only one is Faker, and he was caught by that counter engage. And with even BDD going down, doesn't matter if you don't have your own damage dealers. As in about a minute, the Baron will come up, 2 inhibs are down, and KT looking to equalize the series here as Doctum hits full items.
Full build there, full build for Guma, now has the lifesteal, 100% crit chance. If he has the space to work, he can do the necessary damage. Death Cap's still a little bit of a ways away for Faker. Likely he recalls and finishes it here, but in the previous fight, did have the Pot Blossom, but couldn't find that big angle, couldn't find that big moment to shift the fight in the favor of T1.
And the timer is great for KT because it's the bot lane inhib that is still down for another 3.5 minutes. Mid lane not that valuable, especially against the Sivir, but that bot lane needs to be answered or it can just straight up end the game.
Patience, the name of the game for KT. They don't need to take any risks. We've seen the players, they've gotten over-eager in game 1. They've made some of those fumbles. Doctum getting caught in the mid lane just earlier this game. But the push is in their favor. The map is in their favor. They don't need to risk anything. And still, they'll take their time walking into the jungle. This time around, Doran won't be able to find the blind decimating smash. But the ulti to kick things off, he connects onto the wall. Perfect waiting on the back line. Doctum untouched, BDD untouched. Doran straying way too far forward in a moment of miscommunication. Down goes the top laner of T1. KT start the Baron.
That faceplant means Baron, boys.
It was always going to be a Hail Mary from T1 if they wanted to get back in this game, but that one does not hit the mark. That's Baron, the second one for KT.
When we talk about T1 hitting a wall, I didn't expect it to be so literal. As KT now push on the top side.
Got him good there.
18 out of 20 for that one.
Perfect score, some would say. Perfect himself, of course, has the Randuin's available, or doesn't have it available, but has the slow. The crit damage reduction makes him such a nightmare for Guma to deal with, even with the armor penetration from the Lord Dominic's. KT again in this position where they keep that long-range siege going. BDD not showing on vision yet. The last inhib tower falling down. Inhibitors following after. T1, a last desperate hold here in game 2. If they can turn it back, it takes them to match point, but KT set to even up the series in the 2025 World Finals. Doran isolating Cuz. Peter going forward, finds 3 with the knockup. Perfect there to fall, but Faker turns it right back and knocks down Peter. Doctum, BDD, still standing. Baguma! He's shredding through everybody! The Sivir finally allowed to take over the fight! But they managed to take him. Faker still alive in the scrappy fight. The extra healing is making all the difference. Doctum doesn't quite have the damage that he needs. KT holding on for dear life. Doctum able to find the kill. Perfect, Cuz Doctum falls. A final hold for T1. It almost turns in their favor. But Perfect is going to end the game. Guma dies, and so does T1. KT even up the series.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Perfect, reliable as all hell in this game, doesn't go down. Deals the damage, and with the alpaca thumbs up, brings KT to 1-1.
KT resilient on this stage. They bounce back in game number 2. They create such a lead, but it still seems so difficult. The junglers really being forced to pick up that champion, and now we're get to see it in the grand finals.
For both teams, this is the reset. A best of 3, all that stands in front of you. KT, both early games have taken control. Dominating the map, finding advantages, punishing where T1 have overstepped. But in the mid to late game, it always felt like T1 might just find the angle to fight it back, regardless of what happened in the early game. Will this finally be the game to buck the trend? Will T1 pull ahead for the first time this series, or KT set to run away with yet another early game?
It feels like this is the draft to do it for T1. There's Renekton, there's Viego, and there is that Rakan. Victor and Yunara might need normally a little bit of time, but this is basically the opposite of last game. That was 2 carries. This time they basically have 4, especially when it comes to those early game fights. And we're going to have to see how KT deal with, I think, having the weaker early game comp.
And one of those carries is Yunara, super power pick on the patch that has not been given over very frequently. Faker on the run from the early move here from KT, though.
Backing away. And as we have a moment to reset, right, a moment to breathe before I'm sure inevitably fist fightings happens, I want to remind people that both of these lineups have made swaps this year. Despite the fact that they are in the World Finals, it has not been smooth sailing for either team. Guma, of course, subbed out. Doran coming in for Zeus this year. And when you look at this lineup for KT, players swapped in and out. Peter multiple times, perfect on the top side, doubted. And it's such a testament to the tenacity of these players that they have come all the way to the World Finals.
Because there was a lot of hype behind Wei coming in after basically doing the Challengers equivalent of Golden Roading. And it, in the end, ends up being Peter that is here at the World's Finals. And I already talked about it in game number 2. It has to be said, because this man was the most often talked about weak point on this roster. And thus far, he's had a, frankly, incredible tournament, particularly those isolated deaths. I can't really overstate how big of an improvement that is and how reliable he's become. And KT have clearly been leaning on him.
And even in the game that they lost, you know, his Rumble very good as well. So Perfect really showing up here for KT, as the entire team has. Guma pushing up on the Yunara with the Q charged, looking to use that priority.
Heal coming in for Keria, of course. Level 1 for Peter on this Alistar, notoriously very weak. For Keria and Guma, also the access to the Gleaming Quill on the Rakan means they'll be able to keep their health relatively topped up. See how long they're able to secure pressure as we take a look at the entire map. Doran push on the top side. Mid lane relatively even. BDD, of course, can do a lot of damage in those short trades. Very easy to land those Dark Spheres when no one has boots, but has to be careful about taking return damage.
Yeah, multiple pushing lanes here for T1 with top side and bottom side. And then Owner has Viego into Mundo at the moment. So definitely looking to see if he can actually make use of these pushing lanes and go try and punish. Because probably going to bounce back to the other side and go for the safer Scuttle Crab trade.
Faker's actually been doing a really good job in lane as Peter. There's going to be a trade.
Initial knockup, but potentially a bit over-eager from Peter. Again, Alistar passive a decent amount of healing, and they are up a sum, but have to be careful about trading his life like that.
Still have the heal. Corner does look for a dive. We'll see. Ward should spot him out if he actually makes the play, but I think he's just going to go for Crab.
Yep, hug the side, and then the play here from Cuz, where he recalled immediately after his clear, is going to pay off. We'll get back for that Scuttle Crab trade that you're looking for on Mundo. And Owner down here will be known, so they're going to surmise that it's just normal clears for both.
And I want to draw attention to actually the early laning phase for Faker has been really, really solid. Actually able to dodge most of these spheres. BDD with the phase rush. Still able to CS well, but has been pushed in for most of it.
And T1, since Owner got bottom side Scuttle Crab, communicating, all right, Doran, go in, get your ward timing here for the respawn of these Krugs, the second clear.
BDD also at some point forced to burn Flash. Didn't catch it at the time, but that is a massive cooldown to lose out on. Again, Syndra, one of the biggest weaknesses of this champion across countless times we've seen her in Pro is that, yeah, it's easy to stay ahead. It's easy to stay at arm's length, but once you lose that Flash, you're incredibly vulnerable to these early ganks.
In the Viego versus Mundo matchup, something we also should talk about is that as Mundo, you always want to try and activate your ult as low as possible, right? That's when you get the most value. But that is something that's very scary. There's obviously also the percentage health damage that Viego does, but just the threat of that execute with the setup that's there from the Rakan, from the Renekton, it means that Cuz is going to have to play very respectful, as we do have both mid laners now TPing back to lane and BDD again. If they can keep track of owner, should be feeling fine, but otherwise, needs to be very careful.
Yeah, Mundo oftentimes looking for farms, and sometimes that can be hard if you have multiple lanes getting pushed in, but on the reset here from supports, both junglers will meet up with their supports and combining for some mid lane push.
And for now in the early game, T1 holding on to a relatively small gold lead. Again, it's mostly Doran on the top side, although some of that can be mitigated as that wave is caught, and Gumayushi with a small lead over Dokdom on top of skidding the Cole. Again, Corki, that first item, always quite terrifying. So slowing that down big for T1 in the context of these early game plays. Owner with the bot lane prio will be starting the Drake.
And this is a big upgrade for T1. They were able to get early Drakes last game, but it's about the lanes, right? Because even though they got those Drakes, it did feel like KT was able to, again, set up these early gold leads. Because maybe doing some poking, but I don't think an actual contest is in the works here.
As long as he has his passive up, he's not too worried. Hex Drake down. BDD waiting in the darkness. Multi-man! The CC layering is there. Dokdom on the way in, but he's only level 4. Owner now running for his life. Forced to flash away. Ulti comes out from Faker. He doesn't have a lot of mana left. The Dark Sphere hitting, slowing Faker down. The chase coming through, but they really don't have what they need. Ulti there, his power unleashed. The weak scattered, and first blood for KT.
BDD Syndra finds it, and they do get the first blood. Dokdom does take the actual kill and gets the money into the Corki to fund his Trinity Force.
And the Syndra is a BDD classic for a reason. He's been known for mastery on this champion for a very long time, and I'm kind of shocked. I really did not think that KT necessarily had the angle there, but it's the confidence they've shown so far. Now T1 not going to be too bothered by this. We do have Doran immediately trying to apply pressure. They were able to get the Drake as well, so trade for a kill, not the end of the world.
Yeah, BDD walks him down, waits for his E to come back up, puts all the balls down with the ultimate, and does find the kill. As you say though, Dragon over to T1 so they can look to keep stacking.
Dokdom, it feels like caught shopping. Panic barrier in that moment.
No, I think he tried to cancel the base cancel with barrier.
But
so
of course,
if you don't take damage then, but he was a little bit too late.
Well, also the Fury from Renekton eats the shield. So, awkward situation for Dokdom. Will be down the barrier. Of course, not the most important summoner spell, but does mean he needs to be a bit more careful when he does reset to this top side. Luma and Keria starting to poke, looking to get control of this lane. Recall for Dokdom, only getting him that Phage. Not ideal as Faker and BDD continue to trade. The siphon power from Faker is such a strong early game trading tool, just to make sure that BDD really can't run away with this mid lane.
And Doran
What's that crocodile doing?
He's going for the proxy here. You want to get your extra 30 seconds? Well, move up and catch the wave before it joins up with the opponent. Is going to mean Cuz has an inside route and access to the alligator, though.
That's a Mundo with red buff. Doran.
Yeah, Syndra's coming.
Doran.
He's just dead.
You only have one piece of CC.
cornered.
Yeah, that doesn't work on him. He's going where he pleases. Doran, I think this might not have been what you wanted. BDD on the way, hoping to get this donated. Doran, I think...
Well, he's stalling.
Barnott might be in the game, but this is certainly a magical journey for Doran as...
Trying for the execute. It's all he can do, but not going to happen.
Well...
It's important to choose your timings when you go to proxy.
And also a reminder that no matter what you see in a World Final, it's not always going to work in solo queue.
Hey, they got grubs.
I take it back. It was
he
a genius
made the
play,
Mundo
yes.
ult for
Yes.
move speed. Eh?
Hey.
He got free grubs for his team. You know, they're still up in gold. He's buying time. He got his waves.
I'm going to ask you as the LCK expert, are you giving him credit for that as a calculated play? It's up to you. You can decide. We'll go with you.
I mean, normally I feel very confident to make a judgment call like that, but Doran has often mystified, both in a very positive sense and sometimes in a more questionable sense. So, but we joke, obviously, the Mundo getting ahead is not great, but it did actually get a lot for this, right? With the grubs going over, it did feel like it was just unnecessary, because I think the first proxy was great, but the second one...
Perfect.
Oh?
Top laners versus junglers. Who comes out on top? Perfect not quite able to pull Owner out over the wall. W coming in there from the Yunara. Perfect waiting for a bit more time, because they don't want to fully commit here. Docdom and BDD. Scat of the week is good. Will at least be some more poke damage back onto Faker as Peter TPing in bot lane. Headbutts back Guma.
Ooh, dodges the Slurkle, and we will be seeing Perfect make his way towards the top lane.
Or the slowing circle,
Yeah.
I assume. Okay, got it.
Max lives on.
He does.
I don't love it, but, you know, we're an LCK versus
He's
LCK
decided.
match.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's good.
As oh, Perfect actually going for the 4-mil first. There is a lot of healing on the enemy team. We'll get a decent amount of value of that.
Yeah, and we just saw Perfect had to respect the possibility of an Owner execute play, you know, down there on the bottom side, trying to get an extra summoner spell or something out of the skirmish, but because of the arrival of Guma, had to respect it and back off from the extra possible damage there. So we remain very calm here. And you can kind of look at it as T1 have paid for each objective with 1 kill worth of gold for their dragon and for their 3 grubs to get to this point.
Pathmaker, Q3, but of course Perfect already used his own ulti. Dominance means ult advantage for the side of Doran. Forces the flash out, happy to have that small advantage. You highlighted it well, Kobe. They did concede 2 kills, but when you have the gold lead in both objectives, I don't think you're too bothered. BDD taking a bit of damage, but it looks like T1 are just here to help Faker get that push out, likely completing a major item.
Ooh, that is the ultimate gone for Faker. So we'll see if BD is able to catch the wave and then TP his way over, because there's not prio in either lane. It feels like T1 should have this on lockdown because it's there, and Mundo
That's a hard
to
steal.
be unbothered.
Continuing to do
That's a
decent
lot of
damage.
damage.
Infernal, good damage as well. Lock up there, but Owner going is unstoppable. Peter caught out for a brief moment, immediately going to be forced to ult. That's the unbreakable. The flash, it doesn't connect. The Q doing absolutely nothing means T1 are able to walk away. A bit of a fumble from Peter, but it doesn't cost KT much yet. Guma Yushi standing on the backside, ready to transcend if he needs to. Docdem going all in to try to stop him from getting in this fight. Owner on the way in, looking for the reset to keep the fights going. BDD going over, wants to kill Owner, but Owner lives for an extra second. The stun to turn it back. Owner taking over BDD, but the stun does not connect, and Peter's now running. Cuz locked down in the meantime. Perfect is finally here, but it might not matter. Reset on the ulti from Owner means he gets to back away, but the health bars are low across all of T1. KT, this is an insane gamble. Objective lower and lower, and Cuz gonna take it unstoppable for Perfect. Gets a bit more space. Carry is still living. Docdom on the way in, and Guma set the fall. Down goes the AD carry. Docdom on the way out. The TP in. Fish in a barrel, and it's time for KT to start free firing. T1 thought they had the edge, but in the end, it's KT who take the Drake and the play.
And it's because Mundo! He steals the objective, he chases down the kills, the hero that KT needed.
At first, this play looks dire for KT. They waste a lot. BDD there tries to get the execute, but just doesn't have the damage. Syndra's down, Flash is gone. And then, as Peter goes down, I want you to watch what Docdom is able to do here, because he keeps hovering over, firing these rockets. The poke just keeps connecting, and then Perfect goes in, and all he needs to do is buy time and buy space for his Corki to Gatling gun his way through T1.
Huge, huge moment there. Corki doing work, Cuz hits the cleaver, flashes in to finish off the kill as well, and BDD comes back in time to claim the kill on Faker himself.
In the back for KT, erupting with joy. It looks like T1 had taken it. The steal started to feel like it was going to balance out, but in the overall extended fight, KT just keep on doubling down. And folks, I'm starting to think the Mundo might be a problem.
Yeah, that's almost 10 times as much damage.
That's a little silly.
This is Cuz's second professional Mundo game.
Yeah, on track, looking good. And I gotta say, Owner, he gets the Kraken Slayer. Uh-oh, Gumayushi has not decided to ult. Docdom might be in trouble here. Knockup does not connect. Peter trying to get a bit more space, and Cuz is on the way in. All of T1 forced to retreat. Maximum dosage popped just to get him in range as BDD then now collapsing on the side lane. Multiple pieces of CC stun. Initial lockup into Owner is decent. BDD trying to turn back. Sidestep does not work. Owner taking the kill.
One of the hardest parts about these control mage changes is or trades is when you try and play the side lanes, who are very vulnerable here. And so T1 able to pounce on the flashless Syndra.
Really nice play there from T1. Also, no, right? Cuz shows mid. Ult obviously felt like it wasn't going to do too much, just wanted to get to the fight as soon as possible. And I think shouldn't line up too poorly when it comes to timing. Level 2 of that almost available. But knowing that there is no one and that BDD doesn't have flash, Doran and Owner can fully commit onto the Syndra and take down BDD.
And it's going to be BDD and Docdom who have these targets on their back. Cuz very far ahead, incredibly difficult to kill. But BDD who's flashless, Docdom who's flashless, really vulnerable to the potential engage threat that can come out from Owner or Keria if T1 can find these angles. For now, a battle of vision. We're looking ahead to the next objective. 20 seconds till that Rift Herald spawns. Both teams gold, nearly neck and neck, but a completed item for Faker is going to make a big difference.
T1, if they can get backline access with Owner, Keria, or Doran, the fight is going to be really hard to play out for KT. BDD's position is going to be paramount in these fights. As in the last fight, he flashed forward, didn't find the kill, and it was the rest of the team that kind of bailed him out. Then got picked there as Cuz walks forward with no fear.
Yeah, he has to let his front line do the work that they are built to do. Peter, Cuz, and Perfect. Let's see if they can actually bring it together. The teleport is ready for Perfect as well, and he is now proxying Doran, but he knows that there's nobody else that's going to come and gank him.
There's no Mundo on the enemy team. Scryer's Bloom used as well just to confirm that fact. Pressure in the mid lane in favor of KT means that they're going to get first setup on the Herald. Now, there is still vision here from T1 if they do opt to contest.
Oh, there's the TP, there's the flank!
TP from behind, flashing forward. Carry's going to find the knock on the Doctor, but Peter beautifully stopping the initial engage. Doran from behind, though, more than enough to knock down that 80 carry. KT running.
Huge TP flank. What? It turns into more.
Peter, flash out, reset from Owner. Unstoppable for a moment. Owner setting up for the angle, but he's not going to overcommit. Reset on the ulti, taking him out as T1 start the objective.
And a big mistake there from the KT support. Docdom getting caught, that's just a good play. Nice flank there from T1, but then Peter stepping forward and Cousin BDD trying to look for a kill on the opposite end. But with any of these Viego compositions, if you get the first kill, they just feel so good as Keria sets up the play here, and Docdom has nowhere to go.
And man, that deep ward value that allows Doran to teleport in for the flank, incredible. And Peter, that cow is in the wrong area.
Definitely was. You could see how he had a bit of hope, a glimmer of hope. He peeled 2 people, but when the third comes in, when it's Doran on that flank, to seal the deal on the kill, to make sure that they get more out of that play. And gentlemen, Gumayushi, the one who's getting so much of this money, he's the one who's starting to get scary. And unlike the Sivir, this is a champion that I think has the mobility, the tools to really start taking over. You can see he's already getting the confidence to just step right up into Docdom's face, even in the face of that Trinity Force.
And Dragon is going to be picked up here by KT. Camtech definitely high value, but you do give up the topside turret. This gold lead for T1 getting larger and larger as Keria not sitting on
Peter,
Smite.
Hex Flash, Pulverize, knocks Keria back over the wall, and here comes Docdom. Down goes Keria. A little bonus kill on top of the Drake, certainly nice to have.
I don't know what he was thinking. He doesn't have Smite. His team is playing the cross map. Not really a reason to try and fish there.
Doran spotted, eyes on the scatter of the week. QE not going to work. The Cleaver certainly hitting like a truck. Doran very likely to just have to concede this tower. So KT get the Drake, they get a kill. The Redemption now used as well, and it's on Doran to instantly delete this wave. It's working out well so far, but can he keep his life? TP's coming in from the side of T1, but it's just Faker and Guma off to the side. They don't have the tools to keep the fight going. KT going to respond. All of T1 now retreating. KT still winning out, still coming out on top, but in the mid lane, it's the Herald that's been used. T1 gonna try to transition into breaking down that mid lane tier 1, and it's yet another TP in the sequence of play. BDD wants to deny it. Scatter to clear out the rest of the wave. It'll be a chunk of damage, but the tier 1 will not drop.
Nicely done by KT to parlay that pick into an extra kill. They've got Cuz, they've got Mundo. He can tank up that tower. They go for the dive. They make the play very nicely and very quickly.
And we do see the gold lead has now evaporated. Basically reduced to nothing. Was 2K just a little bit ago, and I don't want to see a Mundo and Cassante with Chemtech Soul. That's too much, man.
That truly will be too tanky to take down. Honestly, though, Keria, like you were talking about, sniffing around the dragon, and KT actually turned that pick onto him. into a lot of value here. A nice little bit of ballooning of the gold. See if they can actually push it forward, though. Faker in the side lane, trying to keep the pressure up.
And it's really interesting me looking at scaling in this game, because I think the Yunara, the Victor, obviously scale great. But when you look at the raw 5v5 power of particularly that Mundo, that Syndra, that Alistar combo, I think we're seeing T1 really hard force plays because they don't necessarily feel confident. I think this comp can always win fights, right?
Sure.
If you ever get the pick, if you can ever start, particularly with this build from Owner, get that early execute, because he has so much damage available, but your front to back trying to get past these big beefy targets down the line might become a problem, especially if they keep stacking dragons.
I mean, definitely could be, right? You're waiting for Guma to get more damage under his belt. You're waiting for Owner and Guma to be able to do work with these double Kraken Slayers, but they're so reliant on these major cooldowns. And if Perfect and Cuz are still standing when those ultimates are gone, that team fight is not going to go in your favor. It's 6 seconds now to the Otacon. We're looking at the bottom side of the map. The push in bot lane for now is in favor of KT. T1 holding on, doing well. 2 items on their carry. Guma holding on to a small lead despite the catastrophic earlier fight. But it's KT looking to potentially start the major objective.
Keria, to me, has to be the difference maker. He's the one that is the initiation tool. This time there is no flank ward, so Doran can't quite find an angle as easily as he did in the last one. So Keria has to do a lot of heavy lifting. Has the sums available, but so do the carries of
and
KT.
Look at the lane allocation here, because BDD, no teleport up in top wave, was actually catching it. So T1 trying to take advantage of that information, knowing it's going to take BDD a while to walk to this area. Owner, though, is taking a significant amount of damage from the Otacon as well as getting shredded from it here. So KT feel like they are fine.
KT will have to respect Doran. You highlighted it well. Perfect needs a bit more time for his TP to come back off cooldown. So KT might just try to draw this out, just try to delay T1 a bit, threaten the objective to give themselves the time they need. And I think the good news for KT is Peter, Cuz, these frontliners really hard to catch out. The passive from Mundo makes it so impossible for T1 to land a single piece of CC. And the Unbreakable from Peter also means that even if they see one of these isolated members, it might not be the right choice to go in as Perfect and Doran continue to fistfight. Perfect, of course, doesn't have TP and wants to make sure that Doran can't get out of here. Going all out in the middle, Pathmaker hitting the Q3 does not connect, crucially, so Doran will walk away, but he walks away ultless.
He actually got the W there on the Renekton Ruthless Predator, I'm pretty sure, so didn't get stunned. Wins that trade handily, also presses tab most likely, and it's like, I have a Thornmail and a Jack Shows. Good luck, buddy. Starrick's now done for Doran, though. That is a big cooldown that will give this Renekton a lot of power, but not having the ultimate, that dominance available, might prove for T1 to not be too big of a hindrance. We'll have to see as Keria, again, trying to set up some vision here.
Keria has made countless plays to bring T1 to this point. Rakan, a champion with so much agency, but again, it's hard in the face of a Mundo, a champion who gets to ignore that first piece of CC, who has so much healing. KT zoning away T1 while BDD pushes the wave.
Critical team fight here. Everybody on 2 items, basically, looking
Flashes
for the
available.
setup.
Now T1 continue to poke their head in, but they really don't have control of the waves. They're waiting for Guma to push out mid lane, but they really need to respect the engaged threat range of BDD. The Dark Sphere Scatter the Weak combo can be devastating. Gumayushi without a cleanse effect to his name.
The rewards for this team fight are so huge because Otacon and the Dragon both on this side.
Baker continuing to poke.
If you win this fight, you might not just get Dragon, you might get Otacon as well. We'll see, T1 might give up the Drake and then play for the objective instead. Perfect.
Owner lurking in the darkness. Perfect unstoppable for a brief moment. T1 happy to have the poke chipping away at that health bar.
Oh, they're pincering them.
KT losing control of that Tri-Brush is big. Scatter going wide, also massive. It's a huge cooldown at this point in the game. Perfect over the wall with the Blast Cone. Knocks back Guma. Redemption going down. Cuz holding on to the maximum dosage as long as he can, but it's Faker off to the side. Not too isolated. 5K on the Drake. Getting lower. Eyes on Peter. The Alistar to make the play as Faker tries to zone away. KT, it's Peter in the clutch. Scatter to fall, but the fall damage is not there. Exhausted is Faker. And Keria tries to turn it back, but he's all by his lonesome. Doran cannot get into the back line. KT managed to find the initial kill as Perfect starts to pop off. Guma missing completely. They get the Drake, but it might cost T1 everything.
He flashes into the wall, and that might be the Otacon going over to KT.
Cuz continuing to go where he damn well pleases. T1 forced back. The tier 1 tower starting to fall. Otacon already getting started by the remaining members of T1. Peter waiting as well.
A critical team fight for KT. They don't care about losing that dragon because they get the gold and they get the Otacon in the aftermath. I think that was critical that T1 made split calls here. Look, they don't have Viego damage with their dive. So Owner finishes the dragon, but look at Keria. He goes with Doran. So Keria and Doran dive the backline, both Doctum and BDD, but they didn't have their burst damage there with them.
As we see Score and the coaching staff, I think they felt necessitated because Faker got engaged on. So you have to pull the trigger. Doran tries to salvage the play. I think in the moment that's the right call, but without Guma or Owner, you just don't have the damage to kill that Corki.
And Perfect comes up huge once again on the Cassante, and he even survives the play.
Feels, again, like a breakout performance. No doubt the highest level we've ever seen him at. And the big thing is here, by winning that Otacon, you get more XP, you get those flowers, which is so crucial for this Syndra who's crossed the 100 mark threshold on those splinters, getting closer to 120. You get some every time you level up, so that level advantage for BDD just pays double.
For T1 though, look at the cooldowns that you got. I'm looking at Doctom's Flash. Any fight that T1 can start with the amount of burst that they have, if they can single out any target that isn't perfect, I think you have a good opportunity. And okay, let's be real, Cuz also is about he's getting close to level 16, not feeling too good about that one, but Doctom, BDD, even Peter if he's too far forward, you need to start the fight with an early pick, but for that, you need to be the aggressor. And I think, that engage we saw, if it's KT that is calling the shots, the Viego comp just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, you called it right before it happened, but Peter, the engage, the setup onto Faker, followed by the scatter the weak. Nice little opening for them. You have to be on the same page in these team fights. Both of these teams have indexed so heavily and found so much success because of their team fighting.
And I think pressure just continues to be on Guma, right? Had the Sivir game, they couldn't quite get it over the line. On Yunar, the strongest AD on the patch. Doctum again.
He knows.
Learn from the previous game. Will not wander into the fog of war, whether it's Renekton or Sion. The lesson has been learned as Cuz has been caught out. Initial CC is good. Cuz getting bursted through with the flash over the wall keeps him standing. Peter trying to zone away. Ulti from Guma means they want to keep this fight going. Good scatter, but doesn't quite connect on Gumayushi. Critically, he's able to just free fire. KT forced backwards, but Faker now half HP.
And Peter, what a psychopath. He went in instead. A lot of damage to come down, and KT, they're looking for the chase.
Cuz connecting the cleaver, still has access to the maximum dosage, zoning all of T1 away. Faker just barely able to make it out. TP is his. He can get back to this fight if KT try to force the Baron.
Flip it. Faker can TP back in. A lot of cooldowns are gone, though. Look at the ultimates that aren't available for T1.
They have to be careful of moving into the choke, and they know it. Owner trying to approach from another side. The potential for BDD to line up a multi-man scatter for it to end the fight in a blink of an eye is massive, but once again, it's the flank that they're looking for. But it's Doran caught out! BDD unleashing his power. Cuz using the maximum dosage as KT start to push into Gumayushi. He's ultless, he's helpless, there's nothing he can do! Mundo pushing further and further into T1's back line.
KT are doing it! The stun from BDD right onto Renekton as he's trying to go through the wall. BDD stuns him as he dashes, and the reward might be Baron.
There is still the opportunity for a steal. Owner's there. He doesn't have his ultimate though. Flash about to come up. If they don't steal this, KT might set up for a soul point as well.
Teleport.
Coming in from BDD, well called. Potential 50-50. The Mundo damage.
Owner.
The auto carrier trying to zone. Peter on the way and wants to knock them out of the fight. The objective getting lower and lower, but off T1! Deleted! In the blink of an eye, KT take everything!
And the scatter from BDD will not let them pass. Doctum lives, and that's Baron.
Listen to that crowd. Listen to that crowd. They are riding the roller coaster. KT with the advantage.
And when we look back at this fight again, Doran caught out the scatter to deny his path over the wall.
And it's Peter even there on a really deep flank angle, and Faker on this Victor trying to make the flank work as they just don't have the tools to deal with this Mundo. He's just not taking any damage.
And then they know to start up the Baron, draw T1 to them. The desperate play from T1. They flash in, they try and burst down Doctam, but the peel is there. Doctam does not fall. And KT, they've got Baron, they've got a 4,000 gold lead. They also have the Otacon buff still. in their favor.
And almost the entire year, T1 have dominated this KT lineup. But for what feels like the first time in countless years, it is KT who have T1 on the back foot. KT who once again have a gold lead. This time not from snowballing early, but fighting incredibly in the mid to late game.
And for this roster, with Doctum, Peter, and Perfect all being subbed out at various different times of the year, for them to work back to this point, inspirational stuff. KT, can they do it?
We saw it in the previous game. T1 was almost able to find their way back. Kuma doesn't have a third on him yet, though. That execution is not quite there. And trying to play a pick comp from behind is known to be an exercise in futility. Look at Perfect, he's not afraid.
T1 have to be careful. A single scatter connects, and it all could fall apart.
Cuz is almost level 16 here on the Mundo as well. Ooh. That rank 3 ultimate is big.
Splinter's almost maxed out as well. That AP steroid, an additional 15%, as if BDD wasn't doing enough already. Only 3 away now. It's level 16 for both mid laners. Carrier with a good combo, Faker with a good ulti. You can see the path to T1 turning it, but it's just so hard to imagine Cuz dying to anything at this point in the game.
And the BDD, 3 items done. 10-stack Dark Seal, slow and steady. As this bot lane inhib certain to fall, you see T1 as well. They're accepting it. Doran maybe trying to trade an inner in top. Cuz just getting a crab for his efforts, as now the 3 item spikes have been hit for Faker, for Owner, and for Guma.
Peter, KT waiting off to the side. T1 see an opportunity. Doran continuing to push in the top lane. T1 want to just keep KT around, deny these resets, but there's no real major example. Faker caught out by Peter. Cuz on the way in, but nothing's going to come from it. Ulti goes from Faker, and Peter's just going to walk away. Again, no major objective, so it's not a big deal, but T1 have to be careful.
He'll use there by Peter. Doesn't want to go down, and T1, if they had a flank ward, if they had the bot lane turret taken down, maybe there's an opportunity, but that one is still standing 31 minutes in.
And during their defense, T1 are able to get the top side secondary tower for Doran in addition to the red buff, plus this outer tower as well. So a little bit of gold back in their favor, but KT, they stand just 2 minutes away from a Dragon Soul arrival. That fight will be critical.
Yeah, that's Cuz level 16, and that's a Cassante. That's
You didn't want to add anything?
too much
You didn't want to add
power.
anything? Just Cassante?
No. I did need to add more. You guys both know.
Yeah, refer to Showmaker.
Yeah.
For the rest of the description of that champion. And honestly, that is the immense tanky front line that KT have to their advantage. Those 2 champions that you mentioned, plus Peter's possible engages here with the Alistar that KT are going to try and use once they draw T1 over to the Dragon Soul fight.
And we keep repeating it because I think it's the only way, barring a colossal mistake from KT, that they win. They need to find a pick on BDD or Doctum. These are your 2 main targets. BDD's flash will almost be up. BDD and his team also have the benefit of getting to choose. They can just play for Baron. They don't have to care about the Dragon, so it'll just be Soul Point. But with Guma approaching his 4th item, maybe this Yunara can do some magic. T1 have found themselves in deficits in a game like this. It was the 3 of us. JDG looked like they had them on the ropes, and they found the comeback as the TP comes in.
TP from behind, they want to catch out Perfect. Perfect can try and use Doran as an escape route. Carrier has to be careful, but Pathmaker already used means that Perfect is in trouble. Q3 back through, using Carrier now to escape. Perfect on his way out. It's not the Rek'Sai, but once again, it feels like he's going to escape. All of KT looking to collapse. Eyes on Faker and Doran as Perfect flashes out to safety. That's the ulti used by Guma. KT pulling back, keeping Perfect alive. Doran wants to make the difference. Cuz goes in! T1 making it happen. Guma fails the flash. It stops the fight from going through. Doran getting whittled down. And in the end, it's Cuz again who refuses to drop. Peter with the CC. I cannot believe it. KT holding on as T1 in the end might finally get to the moon. Now, no!
Who comes out ahead? This scrap Faker trying to chase down the extra kill, but so is Cuz.
I think the time has worked out better for KT here. Look, the jungler for KT is up because he is unbothered. He's about to secure them that Chemtech Soul.
7-0 and 6. A back and fourth fight. It felt like that T1 magic was coming through.
All right. So they get the flash stun to get the burst damage on it, Chronicler. But this fight gets so scrappy as you see the carries that are still left up. Doctom finishes off of Doran, but then Faker is able to get the shutdown.
But it's the deficit that they're in that makes that close. In a normal situation, that catch just ends it. BDD will get caught as the Baron is surely in the eyes of KT on the precipice of match point.
If those fights are coming down to that low of health bars, now with a Chemtech Soul, so difficult here for T1 to finish off kills this time around. Let's see the setup though. BDD throws the Scuttle Crab away. He knows it's a little bit dangerous at the moment.
Not a single flash available on the Rift. Any misstep could cost T1 the game. KT on the precipice of match point, but we've seen T1 not out of this yet, no matter how strong Cuz looks. All of T1, though, forced to retreat. Again, the power of this Chemtech with a Cassante and a Mundo is a terrifying prospect for T1 to contend with.
T1, I think they need the Infinity Edge on Gumayusi. It's going to be really difficult for them to buy the time for him to actually get that because KT can just threaten this Baron. You keep the map dark, you threaten T1 constantly, don't allow Gumayusi any time to farm, to catch up.
They spot it now. Baron getting lower. T1 can't afford to let this get away from them. Peter just using the Hex Flash as all of T1 start to move in. Double Randuins to slow the approach of T1 if they need. It might come down to the 50-50. Peter trying to spot Owner to force him out of the pit. No smite for either support, even with the Spellbook, as T1 getting forced backwards. Maximum dosage still there for Cuz, crucially. Picks up the canister. Guma really starting to hurt, but it's not enough damage.
Sterix is there. T1 taking a little bit too much poke. We'll see if KT actually want to pull the trigger on this or set up a bait. Eventually, T1's going to run out of the resources, but they do know with that ward.
Bot wave pushing in the favor of KT. Crucially, if T1 take a fight and lose, KT will immediately end the game. T1, the pressure point is on them. KT have baited them into the trap. Peter from the darkness, finding Doran, but not the ideal carry as Guma and Faker are still untouched for now. Gravity field to lock them up. Maximum dosage. Cuz getting lower, but still living. The Mundo refusing to die, and Gumayusi drops. KT taking it across the finish line. Faker forced back. The bot lane open. The TP there for BDD. KT moving to match point.
The KT Rolster coaster keeps going up and up.
We're still not done. KT about to go up match point in the telecom war in the world's final.
A story at this tournament of dominance when it started, and people doubted the quality of their opposition, and then they beat Gen G, and now they're taking T1 to match point. KT monstrous in Worlds 2025. Let's see what the AD has to say about it.
Discussion as to whether or not he was robbed from MVP for how good his Gragas was, and that is with match point for KT, what T1 decides to trust him with.
KT on the cusp of winning their first trophy in their first finals after their first semi-finals. An unprecedented run, but they are going up against T1, the greatest to ever do it. A team hungry to find redemption for Faker. 2015, 2016, denied in 2017. This roster wants to be the first to make the three-peat happen.
The ever elusive three-peat. And as you say it, Carrier flashes the Faker emotes. See if they can actually do it this time. T1, of course, they have to approach this as one game at a time. Every single game must win for them to extend the series. Every play critical, including the level ones.
Faker trying to move away. Good damage going down on Owner, forcing that early flash out. You have to be terrified now because Cuz is going to start to take over in the jungle.
Yeah, Trundle definitely can go for invades and look to punish flashes.
Yeah, BJ Trundle with a flashless Nocturne, definitely big, as we can see. A little bit of a trip down a memory lane. It's T1, as we keep saying, in case you know, maybe you just tune in. Maybe you're like, what's all the ruckus about? Have had so many ups and downs, and in this modern era, it's been the four-man core of Owner, Faker,
Guma and Keria. We've had Kana originally in 2021. We've had Zeus in 22, 23, and 24. And now Doran, as they find their backs against the wall.
And how fitting is it that it's KT Rolster that stands in front of T1 now, when it was T1 in 2013 that went over them to go get their first Worlds title. See if they can do it. Okay, Owner, no flash, but it doesn't matter. He can still clear as Nocturne. You want a full clear at least 2 times.
He can beat the jungle camps.
Yeah, and then...
You know, he doesn't need flash.
Just clear in peace, and then your flash will be up in no time. That's how you look at it.
Definitely a good luck is BDD is going to be the first to get to level 2. Neither one wants to be too aggressive with their cooldowns. Obviously, if a single Noxious Blast connects, the potential for BDD to just run Faker down is very real. Nice handshake coming in. Immediate barrier coming out from Dokdom. Gamushi using a barrier of his own just in case the tower shot does come through. So super dominant 2v2 here already from the side of T1.
And I do think you kind of know that when the Kench gets locked in, you're just not going to have the laning pressure. This is really a pick that is expected to have pressure as you go deeper into the series, right? As you, or rather into the game, when the dive will inevitably follow. I gotta say though, Kench into Anivia and Gragas really doesn't feel quite as good. I think the Nocturne and the all-in from Guma and Keria feels good to play into, but Anivia really makes it hard for you to actually reliably protect your carry, get W's off, and Gragas kind of self-explanatory. His ability to create space. Keria!
Flash away. Keria tries to get him with the Q flash. Dokdom quick on the reactions, crucially, but that is a flash down in the laning phase. And again, while Owner is flashless, may still be in a position come level 6 to really force this dive before Peter has access to that ultimate.
Big for this T1 bottom lane that T1 want to play through their bottom lane here with this comp, this Kalista, Renata, Nocturne trifecta that they've been able to get for themselves. And it is going to mean guaranteed bot side Scuttle Crab with the early push there, and the ward as well from Doran, who took his time from top lane to go ward the second one. So they'll know that this time around, Cuz has done the same thing he did last time, where he did the clear into recall and then look for the crab.
I do like, though, you see, even though Nocturne isn't necessarily like the #1 dive champion, all the precautions are being taken. Cuz actually hovers there to see if they go for the crash, or for the dive on the first crash. Dokdom's still going to be substantially behind, though. Force the base, and the early game going the way of T1 here in this 4th game.
Kind of double value when you're able to shut down that Caitlyn early game that so often is incredibly impressive. Now, though, on the top side, Doran may have to be careful. Good awareness, though.
They should
and
know.
See the potential gank coming, knowing that there's really no play on the bottom side to be had for KT.
Early stages of Mordekaiser versus Gragas, not too big. Plenty of sustain on the Gragas, no problem. So just a farm fest up there, as both junglers will go into their second re-clears. It's going to be a little bit quicker, of course, for Owner because of Cuz's little altered path where he goes for the quick recall there. And we'll see once again when the Nocturne does end up towards the bottom side of the map. Currently, though, Keria and Guma at least hovering into the fog of war, then going for pretty deep recalls.
Are seeing Faker taking not the best of trades, but not really botted. Has his egg still available. We'll see if Cuz can make something happen. Might look here. Has his Raptors just now done. Making his way over. Even getting a summoner or getting the egg would be big.
Faker grounded. Cuz on the way in. Good wall to force the disengagement. BDD full committing even though he has no mana. They do manage to get the passive out of Faker. Cuz full committing. Peter on the way. The tongue lash there. They want to give the kill to BDD, but it'll go to Cuz in the end.
And what could be the deciding game, KT, they send all resources again towards mid lane to BDD to make it happen.
But it's Cuz that gets the kill again. Now we saw how that benefited them. As T1 wanting to look for the punish here.
Keria and Guma are powerful. They move in with the heal, a pillar to immediately block them out. The 50-50 goes to Owner. Flash away from the handshake. Is Peter barely able to make it out alive? Good recovery from T1.
And he flashes for that. He's like, no, trust me. I got this. Takes the wheel and finds the 50-50 steal.
Sometimes you need inspiration. When your team are backs against the walls and you just lost out first blood mid, you have to come up with some really big plays. And throwing it there, throwing the flash for the flip, getting it for Owner.
T1 get the objective, and now they've set up Doc Dom in the mid lane, but Peter a little bit late. You can see how, while BDD was comfortable in that 1v1, it's so difficult for Doc Dom. If a wall had appeared just a little bit more behind him, he very likely would have died like the one we're seeing here. Luckily, Peter is there to cover. Knockup will not connect. Nice initial stun from Faker. Procs the phase rush, will back away. Doesn't have any damage under his belt yet, or that could have been a lot more concerning for the side of KT.
It's nice, you know, you get a little indicator for where you need to throw your stun. As Cuz will be able to maintain this lead thanks to the kill that he got. Owner about to hit 6 though, and that is going to be when he comes online is perfect.
Perfect, flash away. Doesn't want to risk going into the Death Realm just to come out a few seconds later on the wrong side of a wall from Faker. And I do really love when people play goofy skins in very high stakes matchups.
The Gragas burp, a classic. All right, so much tension though, so much riding on this game as we get the swaps back out, and KT opting to send Caitlyn up to the top side of the map, whereas Guma and Keria have full priority here, trying to push in on BDD's Cassio.
And looking at how the early game setups are going to go, it feels like who gets to the objective first, right? If you're able to use the priority in your lanes, use the priority of this Guma Keria lane, with the Kalista Renata, you're able to turn that into vision, and you're able to pick off members from KT as they rotate over. Because the pick potential is amazing. Turn off the lights, displace them either with the wall or with the Gragas. And there's a lot of damage available early on to take down these targets for KT. Again, it feels like it's going to come down to what can we find in the team fight.
Yeah, an excellent lane assignment from T1. Again, Faker easily able to wave clear, even in the face of the Caitlyn Tom Kench. Good lane, mid lane control from Keria and Gumayushi, and now Owner walks his way up top side. Immediate 3 grubs secure.
T1 continuing to stack the objectives that they need in this game. Using Guma and Keria, their priority nicely. They rotate over from mid lane to the grubs, up to top lane, and want to keep that pressure on.
Hey, they got the first dragon as well. You know, the way in which they did it was high risk, but ended up working out. All planned. Oh, I mean, Owner knew, you know, otherwise you're a Nocturne that uses his flash for no reason, but he trusted his smite button.
And they know that they are going to need to continue to stack those objectives. So we'll see if the emphasis on the earlier Dragon Soul for them does come to fruition. Kalista, of course, looking to be a snowball.
Ooh, and I do love that it's Doc Dom playing that Caitlyn skin from DRX. The last time that T1 lost in the finals, it was against that team. As Faker should be fine here, but his prio is continuously maintained, and look at the top side. T1 keeping these waves shoved in, and plates will be their rewards.
And this feels like the first game where T1 are able to build such a clear advantage in the early stages. Yes, BDD has a small gold lead, but Gumayushi, essentially, no one can stop this man from pushing in, from building a greater advantage. And you already talked about Drake stacking, right? Kalista, a champion who very effortlessly can contest the big smites of the game, and when Owner and Guma are working together, it feels pretty impossible for KT to stop an objective that T1 have started.
Guma, on a lot of champions, is pretty good at contesting dragons as well.
Has been known for that,
Yeah, he has stolen, even at this tournament, multiple dragons on different AD carry champions. This time around, though, we continue the Farm Fest, my friends.
Nice. Love it. You know, it's
bringing
game
the
4.
LCK to the world
It wouldn't be
stage.
your final
World's
cast if we didn't
finals.
get a little, the appropriate pace for an
Obviously,
LCK matchup.
the main issue is that normally we go completely off topic.
Sure.
We're not going to do that here.
No. Professionalism.
Yeah, obviously. There's a hex plate now done here for Owner. We'll have that available going into the first fight. Looks like double Roa to come through here for T1 as well. Obviously,
20 seconds.
Ooh, BDD close to his.
At this stage, however, it feels like T1 just ahead in terms of overall prio. Yes, BDD has mid lane push, but really has to be careful about wandering into Fog of War when Owner has access to that ultimate. Cuz has finished the Sundered Sky, not opting for a Trinity Force, knowing he might need a bit more sustain. Carry a bit of poke onto Peter, and T1, with this bot lane push, very likely set up to be first to the Drake.
Owner's there, trying to, I think, scout out, and this time T1, if they can set up, again, trying to regain control into Renata, into Anivia, kind of a nightmare. We haven't really talked about it too much, but the engage from KT, just not the best. It's really looking like a full commit or bust.
Cuz ready for the 50-50. Faker off to the side. Decent damage onto BDD. Owner going all in. Flashback coming out from Cuz. Wall there as well as BDD just barely able to skirt around the edge. But the objective set up now for the side of T1. Double TPs. KT want to claim it for a bit more. Ulti coming out from the side of Carrier. Drake down. The backline of KT berserk as they look if they can turn it back. But again, they don't have the tools to keep the fight going unless Peter wants to flash tongue lash. But that's all their CC. Perfect fighting off to the side, dragging Faker into the death realm. In the meantime, BDD starting to walk forward. Doran potentially caught out. The forward man! BDD! Showing he can be clutch in the moments that count. Turning it again. KT were losing the fight as they lost the objective. Gumayusi will not be able to make the bailout work. The Drake to T1, the fight to KT.
Ooh, Doran's gonna want that one back. The big whiff on the Gragas engage there.
Peter, knock up a bit too far. The thick skin, yeah, it's not gonna save you. Caught up in the hype, caught up in the moment. Faker gonna get one back.
Yeah, getting a little bit ahead of themselves there. The roller coaster, sometimes a bit of a bumpy ride. But as we highlighted, it's BDD that takes this fight into his own hands. You see KT, they at first very respectful of the amount of disengage available on T1. And it's not until this pillar comes through that they're really ready to commit.
Yeah, and they try and pincer them against, then Doran goes for the big play, but he's left in the middle, and BDD hits the ultimate, peeling all the rest of the DPS, getting those stuns. And T1 get chased out.
And Perfect, while that was happening, took out one of the big DPS sources for T1. Even though he doesn't actually take out Faker, we can see there, the BDD topping those damage charts, and Faker, he was just hitting a Mordekaiser.
Nothing you could do. Guma, BDD, the points of pressure that we look at for both teams. Gumayusi does go down in the end, giving a lot of that gold back to Docdom, crucially for this KT lineup. And BDD now with the Roa fully stacked, even as Faker struggles to complete his, is in an excellent position in the fights to come. Again, 1 minute and 30 seconds now until that Herald is available. Top side still close. Mid lane still very much dominated by Guma. But T1 would really like to have that prio advantage ahead of this next objective.
Yeah, they made the call. Just try and go for Docdom. You know, Doran getting in there for the knockback, but they didn't have the damage to follow it back up. And so the extra kills here for KT, but T1 preemptively got the Dragon. So that plan of stacking the Drakes is still there.
Ooh, and this is a game where I think Ocean's actually going to get a ton of value. It makes your side laning so oppressive. There are a ton of champions on either side that have a good amount of sustain. Going to become even more annoying when you become basically an immovable object in that side. And a lot of champions that, even with the Roas, even with the Seraphs, are going to chew through a ton of mana. As right now, KT feeling like, despite everything that's happened, game basically that even, right? If anything, it's in favor of T1, given that we've seen the Grubs go their way, given that they're currently up a whole whopping 2 plants as well.
And remember the context of all of KT's kills. It is a lot of flashes, it is a lot of full committals with very long cooldown sums and abilities. T1 still have a much easier time setting up fights, setting up picks, and because they've secured those 2 Drakes, they will inevitably be allowed to force at least one fight on their own terms, even now as we see both teams setting up for the Herald.
And I think that will be necessary for T1 because KT, they have used this Caitlyn so effectively from the very beginning of the tournament, and they've constantly looked towards the late game with this champion for Docdom and the siege power, the extra range. KT right now, speaking of siege, with the 4-1, but T1 are able to take control of it. They've got control and access to the Rift Herald as well, so they can continue to stack these neutral objectives. And that's the way that they're going to apply this pressure to KT and not allow them a lot of extra time in the game.
Early objective stacking going the way of T1 convincingly and fully. As a possible play onto Doran here, a dive with about 50 seconds left on the clock would be big.
Owner on the way. Access to the ulti. TP available. Full commit now going down. Owner turning off the lights. All of KT immediately pulling back. Peter isolated, caught out. Trying to stay standing with the thick skin. Will Abyssal dive away as Faker takes down the top lane tier 1. And again, this is the struggle of the KT composition. It's so hard to force anything, and T1 continue to trade up.
And T1 read them like a book. The 5-man rotation gets punished heavily. They're ready to keep Doran safe. This time around, that Gragas will not be
taken down, and then on the cross map, the topside turret falls.
And now they're in a perfect position to contest this next Drake. The good news for the side of KT is at least Dokdom finally has that collector, is able to chip away at Gumayushi's health bar, but with the Blade of the Rune King and a red buff, Guma forced to be reckoned with. KT poking their heads, and they don't really have the vision, but they do have a ward on the flank if Perfect can find his way in. We'll just take the more conventional path through the mid lane, however.
And look at the flank from Doran here, trying to hide there on the Ocean Rift, looking for a big displacement.
Herald summoned in the mid lane. 5v5 at the pit. Flash ulti available for BDD if he wants to try and find it. Perfect isolated off to the side. Hostile takeover stops Peter from going any further. Dokdam completely isolated. Cooking the barrel for just a little bit longer, and now the Drake is going to go down. Owner taking it. Dokdam isolated. And Perfect trying to force a fight with Faker, but he gets nothing as the wall comes in to interrupt. Flash over the wall. The ulti from BDD. He might get a couple more kills, but again, the objective belongs to KT. Even as T1 begin to fall, Faker and Carry are ready to turn it. But have they overcommitted the wall there, trying to disengage? Carry a Faker running into the pinch, Obliterate connecting for full damage. Cuz on the chase, waiting a few seconds for the pillar, but the stun clutch to disengage for the side of T1.
T1, they get the dragon, but at what cost, guys? The gold here going over to KT, some of these kills. Ooh, it is tense. I mean, T1, I think it's still good because they can still keep up their timeline for Dragon Soul.
I think you take it because of the double steal that comes through, right? Because they're unable to get this dragon. Owner gets to secure again, and I want to look at the amount of flashes that are blown here for KT. As Dokdom gets taken down, completely focused by Guma, who stays alive until BDD gets on top of him. But the stalling here is a big deal, and the trades aren't that bad when it comes to kills here for T1. And with that objective going their way, so many summoners were blown there for KT.
And I think the big thing that I'm looking at is the effectiveness of this Tahm Kench. This is a moment where across this series it's felt like Peter, Dokdom have been doing well even when Dokdom's been getting caught out, but you saw there the disconnect. Peter flashes in to try to devour Dokdom. Dokdom flashes over the wall. They can't get the angle, and those moments of miscoordination are effortless for T1 to punish, and this is something they cannot afford because they're already falling behind in terms of map pressure. Even if they have a kill advantage, they're behind in gold. Single mistakes like that could cost them everything.
And I'm looking at Owner's smite button.
Oh yeah.
Inspect that thing. This guy is cold as hell, man. Keeps on getting these dragons. Started out the game with a flash to go steal it. Can he do one more? Does he have one more in him?
And started off the game without a flash to speak of. When it comes off cooldown, he flashes to steal it. And again, this is the member that we've heralded on this T1 lineup as the most consistent point. Being clutch around these objectives is crucial because now you see the runway, you see the path to victory. The Otacon, the Soul, stand in front of T1.
In 2013 OGN Summer, those telecom wars going the distance. Will we go the distance here on the World Final stage?
If we start a Twitter poll, can we ask for Game 5 blind pick?
I'm down.
It's a throwback.
Let's get double Zeds, double Shens back in
Fearless
there.
Game 5 blind pick.
Run it back.
We could do that, right? It's
man.
fine.
We have that authority, I'm sure.
Yeah, certainly.
Absolutely not, for anyone concerned.
5 flashes have been blown by KT, and that does mean that I expect T1 to maintain prio in these lanes, because not having flash means that you're much more susceptible to a Nocturne showing up and taking your lunch money as owner. We've seen him and Gumayushi often be the deciding factor together, as KT, they might just full send in an Otacon, at least to get the TP out of Doran.
Understand the gamble that KT are in because T1 are collapsing, and in the meantime, waves are being deleted. It's costing KT hundreds of gold just to be here. And if T1 take the fight, it might just cost them the game.
Perfect has
sticking
ult.
around, ready to get them away. The ulti not stacked up. Perfect going forward just a little bit longer. The death realm to come out. Owner going to respond with an ulti of his own, turning off the lights on this team fight between both lineups. Gumayushi and Perfect in the death realm, and Guma takes those. T1 focusing on the objective. Cleanse used from Carrier. Heal on the way. Faker finding a bit more damage. BDD isolated. Hostile takeover going to connect onto BDD. It won't have much effect as Cuz tries to chase Faker out. But Dokdam, he might take Carrier. But it's T1 taking the Otacon. Guma securing the objective.
And there it is, the second smite for T1 strikes again as Otacon goes their way.
Oh man, that was a tense one. You can tell the call from KT, I think at the beginning, is have Mordekaiser just run at Owner and try and ult Owner. But look at Perfect getting kited. The Anivia does so much work keeping him at bay. Keria as well, trying to help, trying to delay. And then as the ult goes down there, they kite it back out. Otacon resetting. They put so many spears into this Otacon.
And I cannot think of a worse champion to pull into Death Realm 1v1 than a Kalista that has been accelerated. Unfortunate from the side of KT.
Yeah.
You see that they have the damage, that they have the items. They just cannot put it where it counts. And ultimately, that just means that T1 are even further ahead. 23-9, the score in terms of the petals. 1,000 gold advantage and 20 seconds until T1 are set up to take the soul.
It's going to have to be a miraculous team fight here from KT, as they are second to the objective. And if this soul goes over, barring an Elder flip, T1's got to be feeling real good.
Doran isolated for a moment. The miasma just a little bit late as Faker's off to the side. Good damage onto Perfect to kick things off. Cuz still eating a bit of damage. The poke from T1. A bit tough to deal with. You can see the pierce that lands onto Dokdom, taking that chunk of health. Flash in, full committal to the fight. Pillar to isolate Owner, redemption to heal Faker right back up. That's almost every single cooldown burn. It's on BDD to try to turn it back, but it's a split fight. T1 coming from multiple sides, collapsing as Owner moves in on top of Perfect. Dorn has been isolated in the Death Realm, but he'll manage to make it over. Flashback, absolutely jukes him. And now it's Perfect caught in a 1v1 with Faker. Right as he comes out, he is stunned, but he won't be taken down. All of T1 in the pit. The spears stacked, smites available.
Faker's gonna teleport back. They're recalling Mordekaiser and the Anivia.
The fight just continues to go. 6K getting lower. Dokdom trying to get a bit of poke. Hostile takeover connecting. They don't have a cleanse. Devour from Peter is good, but it might not matter. Cuz continuing to move in. BDD waiting over the wall. The ulti is there, but they don't need to face him yet. The turn on to Faker isn't enough. 3K. Cuz in the pit. At the end of the day, it does not matter because it is Doran to get the soul. KT might be able to get the fight, but there's too many members of T1 standing. Ocean Soul to T1 as everybody on KT falls.
And I am starting to hear some silver scrapes in my telecom war.
Oh my God, T1 stand up, get the Ocean Soul, and they have made every person in this stadium stand up as well. Dokdom gets hit with the Keria ultimate immediately. Peter trying to bail him out. They're both so low, they get pushed out. Then Doran blocking the Caitlyn ultimate, protecting Owner here as they try and kite back into the pit. Meanwhile, on the top side, BDD was running straight at them. Immediately gets deleted there by Keria and Faker on the other side.
And it's Guma skirting alongside the fight. And the fact that Faker, even though BDD got his ultimate off, hit him with the stun. So he didn't actually get to do the damage that he needed to, as the double fake out from Doran. And the MasterCard prize at the moment of the game, Ocean Soul secured for T1.
Plus, in the lead up to that fight, Faker was kiting so well with the Anivia, and there was a moment where the Mordekaiser was trying to pull him in, but the Trundle Pillar also bumped him out as well. I mean, the annoyance of the late game Anivia, the kiting here that he's able to pull off, really created so much space.
And T1 seemed to perfectly understand their strengths in comparison to KT's weaknesses. We've mentioned it countless times. We saw it in draft, and we've seen it be the bane of KT this entire game. They do not have good tools to force picks. So T1 get to stay in these fights at 20% health, 30% health, because once they see that pillar go down, they know there's no way anyone else is getting on top of them in the back line. Now, Soul in their favor, Flowers in their favor, 5K gold lead, and they're set up to take the first Baron of the game.
And it's again costly when it comes to summoners for KT. And T1, call the T1 Baron. Gold lead's there, Ocean Soul is theirs. And KT, we'll see if they can make something happen.
Owner and T1 have secured every single objective this game. Cuz moving in, but zoned away by the Storm from the side of the team. Berserk now onto Cuz, has to ulti. Owner using an ulti of his own just to try and disengage. Dorn, meanwhile, in the mid lane, happy to just continue fighting. Perfect going into the back line, looking to get taken down by Faker. He's in the death realm, but Faker's happy with the 1v1. Just in time, he gets out, and Dorn is there to seal the deal on the kill. KT desperate to get anything. They've already lost their top laner. The game rapidly slipping away.
They're trying their best to not let this game go to 5 as Doran still searching.
No
T1.
flash for BDD, that crucial piece of CC and exhaust there. But Faker just waiting in the darkness. Guma stacking up the spears, the wall to zone KT away. Flash not there for Cuz either. BDD off on the side is going to use the ultimate. W in from Peter does absolutely nothing. T1, they see a vulnerable opponent. They know what they can do as they start to rip them to shreds. KT is not going to take a Baron. T1 why they are here, what they can do in a world final.
The T1 ensure that we are going the distance. We are getting our full value out of this series as KT just cannot close the gap to T1's backline.
The turn off of Baron to grab the kills, and now they will secure the objective. Here's another look at it. So Duran had just body slammed at BDD, and BDD used Cassiopeia ultimate. The rest of them can then chase through the river here. As you see, even with the Tahm Kench trying to eat him up, Noctem still has nowhere to go.
The KT feel forced into trying to contest, know that if Baron goes down, game is as good as lost. And Peter, it's not an enviable job. You're trying to play engage Kench, and I've seen a single man do that well, and he's on the opposite side of the rift. We knew it was a gamble, and that plus the blind Cassio, I think, really getting punished so nicely by T1 in this game.
Yeah, and the top lane difference as well. The Mordekaiser has not found a lot of value. He's getting kited a lot, and hasn't had very high value ultimates either. So we'll see as we progress in this series, if we progress, because T1 still have not done it yet. They've got the Dragon Soul and a 9,000 gold lead though, so they definitely should be able to.
20 pedal lead, they have Grubs. We haven't taken a turret yet, Kobe.
They got more items, they got more money. Yeah. It's looking like a hard road for the side of KT. And now,
but it's good news for us.
When a comeback happens, if KT can make it happen, then it's something to be considered. Maybe a miracle flash, but it will take that miracle. And for KT, it's so important not to lose sight of the bigger picture. This is a game you could afford to lose because of what you won earlier. It might come down to a best of one, but you need to be at your best form for that matchup because this game is looking done and dusted. Owner pushing in the mid lane. KT can't really afford to split as that tower falls. The threat of T1 diving into their backline, a very real threat.
BDD found a big play on his Yone in game one against Gen G to find a miraculous comeback, but this game feels so much more dire. About 35 seconds till we see that Elder come up. I don't even know if T1 really wants to wait for it. With two inhibitors, they can just decide to back off. No pressure on them.
Owner waiting, hoping to catch out a member of KT, over eager, knowing how important it is for them to stop the Soul from going down. 20 seconds, a TP into the mid lane. Maybe going to catch out Gumayushi here. But it's perfect. Again, this is the problem. No matter who TP's in, it's so effortless for T1 to just walk away.
Yeah, perfect. Guma is 2 levels up on the top laner.
Cuz caught out, isolated, immediate subjugate to try and stay standing, forced to flash back. BDD in the darkness! 3-man! But it's Doran to try to turn it right back! The ulti is decent, Carrier wants to turn it back with the hostile takeover. The gold deficit is just too massive. Even a miracle, even an incredible angle was not enough in the face of this T1 lineup. The triple, the quadra, T1 bringing us to silver scrapes.
Guma lives the engage, and T1's hopes live in the grand finals.
And the telecom war has never been this insane. World's Finals, Game 5.
A back and forth, absolute dominance in Game 4, though. The story for T1 as we get ready for Game 5. Let's send it back over to the analyst desk.
What would you tell future BDD 1 week from now? And I thought his answer was so eloquent. He said, just do what you normally do. And now he just has to do it for one more game.
Set up in the mid lane matchup, range versus melee. So much time for Smolder to scale for free. Chengdu erupting in cheers in the final game. Level 1 setups, keeping an eye out for any creative options, but both sides just drawing lines of scrimmage, respecting each other's sides of the jungle. Neither side wants to be the team to give up a first blood or offer any early mistakes to the opposition.
One thing I do want to highlight for KT specifically is the value of Mercs. Looking at the CC that's available on T1, Taunts, Leona, even the Owner's W, definitely going to get a good amount of value from that, as we do have a little bit of pressure being put out here by Doctam as he makes his way down. Low auto, but nothing too crazy here in the level 1.
And of course, for a lot of this series, it's been about bot priority, and it's been about the junglers. We take a look at how Cuz and Oner have performed. Last game, no doubt, a masterclass from Oner. But here, comfort for Cuz. On Sejuani, a proactive option for Oner. We know what he can do with those semi-globals. Eyes are on them to make these early game plays, even as we see the laning phase begin.
Can we add Smite's hit to that list of stats as well?
I don't know. I think one person might be a little bit more favored, although credit to Cuz and the Mundo Cleaver steal is Perfect and Doran just trading blows.
Camille, one of those champions that I think has a really funny power curve, like level 1, level 2, level 3, you're feeling great. First base, not too bad, and then you're basically just praying until you hit your Triforce. As Keria goes in.
Takes a tower shot, just trying to zone away, make the most of that level 2 power spike. Dom and Peter waiting to catch the wave.
And BDD is going to be trying his best to both farm as many stacks as possible and keep this Galio lane locked. If Galio isn't able to make impact in sides, especially in the early game, it's going to make it a lot harder for T1 to find plays as, oh, look at Oner. He's diverted his pathing. He's looking for top. That's a classic.
Perfect. Needs to back up. Level 3. Getting lower and lower. Last Right's offering a bit of healing. The tactical sweep there from Doran to slow him down. Oner all but certain to make this one come through. First blood for T1. Doran's Camille takes it.
The 3-camp gank from Oner. The price you pay is usually counter jungle, and since Faker is getting pushed in, since the Smolder has priority, it does allow Cuz to exact that price.
TP back to the lane. Luckily for Perfect, Doran hasn't had a chance to spend that gold yet, so we'll still need to play with a little bit of respect.
And Perfect has had such an incredible tournament, but when the criticism towards him was the heaviest was when he fell behind early. It's been a big test for him to try and not fall deeper down the hole once it started. Many an LCK team in playoffs throughout the last 2 years have made that their goal, and this is his biggest test yet in the final game here at Worlds.
And it's a very worthwhile investment from Oner to do the topside 3-camp into gank, sacrifice his blue buff, because if you look at the comps overall, getting the Camille ahead is essential for this team, for the ability to play your side lanes later, for the ability for Doran to dive in on his Camille, Hextech Ultimatum into Galio Ultimate lockdown. The possibilities here are critical for T1 and Oner back on the warpath.
Oner recognizes what he needs to do. It's snowball, backstep, good from BDD. Faker tried to go for the angle, the flash, the Justice Punch, hoping it would carry him back just far enough to instantly connect the knockup.
A swing and a miss from the GOAT.
Faker no coward. If you go for the reverse punch, the time to respond is the shortest. But BDD doesn't even have to use flash himself, just walks it off, and this means that Faker is now in an even deeper hole because BDD actually having so much threat here in mid.
Yeah, it's a critical breakpoint because Galio lane does really revolve around, do I have jungle pressure to put threat behind when I move up in lane and try and taunt you? And now you don't have that pressure at all.
Q forward, sidestep, the taunt, Faker turning it back, BDD, one more auto, the 1-for-1!
But BDD, no hesitation, must have known that that was going to kill him.
Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, Doran locked down with the pandas, Cuz on the way up.
Oh, just barely.
With the flail. Doran barely able to walk away.
They didn't want to use the flash knowing that Doran's still at his. But we are getting explosive here. No slow early game in this game 5.
And BDD, he goes for that dive. You know, he does invest his flash. So that is something critical to look at. Oner is back and ganking again.
Perfect needs to get out. Has the flash available, but Doran just going to immediately flash follow. The adaptive defensive, the hook shot still there. The Q back for a bit of healing, but it's not enough.
Beautifully played, no hesitation. Oner flashes in so that Doran can then also close the distance, flash into melee range, and save the hook shot for the answer flash from Perfect, securing the kill.
And this is something that, again, we've seen KT struggle with, we've seen Perfect struggle with. Yorick, he just goes for the call, and his team at least will be able to find on the cross map the ability to get this dragon, but he needs to stem the bleeding, because if Doran gets out of control, this game becomes nigh unplayable for KT.
That it does, especially for BDD, the strongest point on the team currently, even as we see gold leads get bigger for Oner and Doran. cannot let the Camille start to take over. Perfect needs to stem the bleeding. You highlighted it so well. It's one of the few things that we haven't seen from him yet this tournament is now the hookshot wall dive is there. Dom flashing away, but Owner's on the way as well. Ulti there, that's the Hextech ultimatum. Dom likely to escape, but it looks like Peter will be sacrificed in return. The hookshot, making it out, send it play back to the tower, but it might cost Carrier his life. It's a 1-for-1, no! The minions flicking out! Carrier walks away!
Out of the lane swap, T1 find the trailing play here. Dom and Peter could not fully push the wave in, and so T1 pounce.
And that's the
The comments! I have tea in my mouth, but that was incredible, the arcade comment!
he snipes him, and that salvages the play.
From downtown, Dom on the Ziggs finds the play to salvage it for KT in the final game. As T1 were building a gold lead, he chops it back down a little bit.
And it's again the power of Pantheon, Leona, Camille. If you're slightly too far up in the lane, you will just get 100 to 0.
Area. Baseball this out, Owner waiting off to the side. Cuz level 6. Critically, Spike comes through. Cuz immediately going to retreat. Red buff steal, a nice little advantage for the side of KT.
And they have to be careful there because there is obviously the possibility of Faker going for an ultimate there, so he can't really commit to the fight. BDD can damage him, but he cannot stop that ult. Doesn't have the tools available. And we do see the gold lead for Doran still there. Gold lead for Owner as well, and the resilience of KT. As we have seen these early games swing in the last 2 games. First couple of games it was in their favor. This time around it's T1.
Yeah, Owner has been on a mission, creating so much with this Pantheon. Cuz though, has level 6 on the Sejuani, so the possibilities of your plays become that much greater. He starts out the grubs with the confidence. BDD does have priority of mid, and it's just going to be the one for now.
KT have to be so respectful of the sheer quantity of CC on the side of T1. Also, all of their burst damage so heavily telegraphed makes it very easy for Doran with the ultimate, for Owner with the Aegis Assault, to just mitigate all of that burst and turn a fight right back around.
There's no mercs yet for KT. What I do love is that often in a Game 5 in Fearless, we end up with comps that don't have engage. This is kind of the opposite. Both teams have amazing hard engage. We have Nautilus on one side, with Sejuani to back it up. Then the Camille Galio,
Baker.
Leona combo is
moving down, that's the combo, locks him in the ultimatum, finds the damage, the taunt is there, and Doran takes another.
Baker Galio in Game 5 World Finals here does make the move for the guaranteed play. These 2 ultimates, when they are available, you know T1 can look for it. It does allow, of course, the push in. You see the mini-map, BDD shoved in the wave, but they're not going to get much out of it.
It's just not going to compare, right? Look at Perfect State. I wouldn't be surprised if Doran with that is going to be at least close to his Triforce, sitting on a 1k gold lead, and that is such an insane spike, particularly when you're playing in like a Triforce versus Triforce matchup, right? Doesn't quite have it yet. But Perfect, he needs to find a way to make an impact because he is currently just fodder for T1.
That he is. Luckily for him, the Trinity Force completion does not come through for Doran because very rapidly Doran is going to be a problem not just for Perfect in the isolated 1v1, but for BDD, for Dom as we get ready for these bigger fights, and that is really going to be the breakpoint that KT are terrified of.
Yeah, the game looks so hard to play for those KT carries that you mentioned. So many forms of dive from T1 will be looking to take them out.
And it's the entirety of T1 also playing, right? This isn't Perfect getting 1v1, it's 1 gank from Owner, 2 gank from Owner, gank from Faker as well. And you see Perfect, this lane state just kind of disastrous. Not really going to be able to make anything happen there, and instead just paths top. But that means that this gold lead is going to remain the way it is, and there it is for Doran. Triforce in the pocket, TP used.
Sundered Sky as well. 2 incredible power spikes for the coming objectives. 30 seconds until Chemtech Drake spawns. It won't be a soul of Mountain or Chemtech. Very likely to be critical for either team to deny this soul. And at this point, getting harder and harder for KT to find angles. They have to give up a little bit of space, but at least they have their first items completed. Heartsteel for Cuz, the Essence Reaver, the Luden's Companion.
Trinity Force for Doran, though. That is very painful. The Q2 is really going to hurt. Let's see if they can make a play, though.
Peter.
Away from the top lane is not that bad for KT.
Peter, ready to input buffer on the hook.
Look at Doran, though. He's moving down. If Doran comes, that's the over 1,000 gold lead coming over.
Shutdowns on Dorn and Owner, just showing us where all of the money is for the side of T1. 1,000 individual gold lead over Perfect. BDD zoning, poking while he can, dodges out on the tactical sweep, but uses the flap, so needs to be careful for at least a few more seconds.
That's Drake just gone.
Yeah, KT.
Got the first one, not the second one, as T1 picks this one up. And the one-item spike for T1 is frankly disgusting. Also want to highlight, Faker is one of the few Gallios that we've seen, at least in the SK, consistently do this. He just builds full damage, right? We've seen him both go for like a more hybrid build where you go for Zhonya's and remaining utility, but he is not afraid to just full send it, and it does make the itemization harder, right? If he goes for tank, then you can stack a lot of armor, can make actually finding the angles onto this KT backline a little bit more tough, as it's Cloud Soul, which feels apt for a LCK final Game 5. I don't think we've gotten one yet this series.
Doran again, finding these angles. The good news for Perfect is Yorick's power in the 1v1 means he can at least survive a little bit here in what should be a very one-sided matchup. But obviously with Owner poking his head around on the top side of the map, he's still very vulnerable.
Yeah, you have to be cognizant of this Pantheon ultimate at all times. Thankfully for KT, they still have their tower standing for now. But for how much longer will that be true? T1 make a pretty heavy movement into the jungle. Look at the river pings. Nobody actually goes for the engage, though, and the crab will be secured by KT.
Yep, good shadow from Owner, looking for a potential angle of attack there on the top side, looking to put Perfect even further behind, but Doc Dom, of course, with access to that Mega Inferno Bomb, can immediately clear the wave and make that a lot more of a tricky proposition. T1 don't need to take any risks. They've got a gold lead, they've got a dive comp that's already accelerated.
And for Perfect, like you can't fix your wave. There's a Camille, you know there's a Leona nearby, and there's Pantheon with ult as well. So unless KT sends someone up, and Cuz thus far hasn't found impact in this game, not a hard steel stack to be found, there is obviously the promised land, right, where KT is going to try and get to the point where BDD is his stacks, Doc Dom is at his third item, and Yorick is one of those champions that I think always will get value if you get a little bit of time alone inside, but T1, I don't think they're going to just let them get to that point. You're going to have to fight tooth and nail.
And I foresee a future where the value of Yorick gets given over in gold to T1 if he's out there in the side lane.
Yep.
They very well could just pick it up. Again, the real interesting thing is going to see when these side lane turrets do end up going down, if they can still remain safe then, if they can actually still play the map then. Because currently, we have plenty of defenses to work with, so we can continue to farm here, trading farm back and forth, and it's going to be about the engage. But as you open up the map, that's when the true plays begin.
Looking.
Cuz looking for the ultimate. Gumayusi
Good
forced to
juke.
backstab, flashing away from Peter's hook. Small advantage to the side of KT. But ultimately, KT doing what they can with the Ziggs to hold control of the mid lane. Do not want to concede that priority as Carrier just continues to lay down vision for Doran on the top side.
BDD currently at 116 stacks. Want to get to that breakpoint of 225 as soon as humanly possible. Currently looking to be slightly behind the curve as
Doc Dom caught out, Zenith Blade there, the ulti just out of range! Crucially,
and the cancel there as well. Peter has his buddies back. Gets the ult onto Guma, but this might still be this Herald. Oh, perfect!
Doran on the way up, the Maiden summoned. Doran, though, he's got backup. Owner on the way in, locked once again in the ultimate of Doran. But Perfect living for an extra second. The Q2 coming through just in time. KT want to punish, but they're a little bit too late.
Again, the Yorick is just food for T1. Guma's got to get out of there, though. He has his strut. Even though he doesn't have his flash, he can walk away. Again, it is just so hard to play side lanes, even with towers there. T1 can still force it and still find a pick. KT, the consolation prize will be the Rift Herald, though.
No one can really catch this wave, though. They don't want to use the Ziggs ult. It looks like BDD is going to make his way over now.
Plus, you're losing bottom side power there with Galio just up at the turret. Faker pushing on that bottom side tower with the power of the extra 2 Void Grubs. A little bit of extra damage, a few more minions.
The saving grace for KT is that they have gotten a dragon. That is often what can be the decider between Smolder hitting the 225, which thus far, Split 3 in Worlds has been at 22 minutes, 34 seconds on average.
Yep, well ahead of schedule. BDD still comfortably farming despite kind of the struggles of the team overall. Will be a major concern as we get later. As powerful as Smolder is, it's not really Smolder. You still need to be able to survive Doran's initial engage, survive Owner's initial engage, not get caught in those big taunts or wombo combos from Guma.
Yeah, the dream for this KT squad is to be able to poke with your Ziggs as well as your Smolder once you get to your rapid fire. But what counters poke? It is hard engage.
Owner.
Peter, though.
Aegis Assault still there. Flashback into the Blast Cone, going to keep Owner standing, but likely means KT will be able to secure the second objective here. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, though, it's push in favor of T1. And we talked about Ziggs destroying towers, but Doran, with this Trinity Force, also will just eat through that objective. KT splitting their focus. Is it going to cost them? Faker.
Second Drake is big.
Access to the ulti. T1 might just be a little bit late here. Cuz desperately needs to smite. Doesn't quite connect. Crucially, Dr. able to get out for a brief moment. BDD now trying to turn and fire back, but Faker is on the way. Ulti going in. Doran is down. BDD still standing. The exhaust managing to take him a little bit lower, but Gumi usually sits on the back line completely untouched. BDD finally able to start opening up. His Owner gets one back in return. Perfect is here to keep his mid laner alive. And there you go. KT find an angle to keep it close.
That's 2 shutdowns for BDD! And they get the second dragon as well!
This dragon could get huge. The Rift Herald goes down mid immediately. That was just after a 2-for-2 trade, and the dragon already went to KT.
1.5k individual lead. KT do not want to stick around any longer.
And we want to highlight again, this is not the Smolder Revolt where you hit your stacks, that's it. You actually need your items. As we take another look, the attempted engage onto Dogdom doesn't quite pan out. Guma pulls the trigger too early, and look at that ult from Cuz. CC's the MF, and the damage isn't quite there.
And then, when the Gallia ultimate finally does come in, BDD and Doctum, they kite back here by the red buff. It's just that Owner goes in, he sees the angle to stun up Doctum, and go for another 1-for-1 trade.
Herald also dropped over the wall, I believe, just to give a safe exit if needed. KT, again, the gold lead was starting to feel insurmountable, but they brought it closer. PDD, unfortunately for him, the reality after that fight is as well as he played, there is now a target on his head.
But, yeah, I mean, fortunately for him, now he's also going to be way richer. So there's a target on your head. There's a wanted poster up for you. But you are rich. 2 items, and that rapid fire is what we were looking for. The poke breakpoint here for KT. They actually hit it fairly early. Being able to poke now with rapid fire, with the Ziggs, it puts even more pressure on T1 to engage. Normally, the counter to poke damage is hard engage, but you can't mess it up.
There's also Ziggs, who, as disengage goes, really are even able to, I think that's what Doctum tried to go for. You can interrupt the Pantheon like mid-jump, right? If you get the timing right. No defensive or no offensive satchels, I do hope, from Doctum, because both him and BDD are going to be prime targets. Perfect. Just going to have try his best to just have an impact in any way he can. As we do see, KT desperately want to hold on. With Otacon spawning, you want to hold on to the bot lane turret. Don't want to give that one up. And with the wave clear of BDD and Doctum, they should be good to go.
Galio's roaming. Be careful. This is 2-item Camille, 2-item Doran.
Guma as well.
Tension builds on both sides. The Otacon, the crucial objective. T1 hold on to a 2,500 gold lead, but an Otacon surely would push it over the top. TP into bottom lane from Doctum. Has access to the ultimate. The flash is up for everybody on the side of KT except for Cuz.
Are they going to send it? I feel like you kind of have to with the teleport being invested from Doctum there. We'll see if they actually do want to make a real commitment. Could get some summoners out of T1, but it doesn't look like they want to take the gamble.
Perfect also about to be taunted up. Has to be careful. They have so much damage here. Doran, of course, just reset the tower aggro, but he is locked down for a damn long time. Doran, untouchable for a brief moment, but they managed to kill him. T1 fumble the play in the mid lane, and Perfect redemption as he survives the dive. Mom called, but she will not connect.
The dark procession from Perfect. It got them so much, and now they're opening to get the tower, the extra gold as well. KT, they're striking back.
And it keeps the gold lead within touching distance. It further accelerates BDD.
And this game 5 just keeps on delivering. Have to try their best, T1 does, to maintain this momentum, but they're not even close to a break point on the Dragons, as Kuma is just taking matters into his own hands.
Dom, no ulti available, decent poke. Owner Faker here, the TP's used. T1 making the fast play happen. KT caught reeling, too far behind on tempo. Doran might have fallen in the previous play, but he is still damn powerful. Dom here. T1 pushing them back. It'll take a miracle for them to get this one out. Owner, Peter coming in for the lockup, but Owner manages to get the objective, the fight coming out. Fire rained over the wall by Gumayushi, and down goes Peter. BDD finally arrived. That's the ulti coming in the meantime. He needs a little bit more space. Dom, BDD untouched, but the front line has fallen. BDD, CC'd, knocked into the sky, and right back into the grave. T1, get Otacon, and ace KT.
A triple kill for Guma and T1! Do it! They take over!
And that could very well be the nail in the coffin for the roller coaster, as Otacon goes the way of T1. KT overplay their hand, and the Dragon is gonna follow suit.
Ultimately, you look back at this, an excellent window of opportunity recognized by T1, a team notorious for forcing early objectives. And it all falls apart for KT. The backline lives for far longer than expected, but T1 are just more powerful.
They kite back so effectively and then call for the re-engage after they already have the advantage. Owner ulting behind to make sure there's no escape for Dom.
And there, it's the call from KT is to try their best and force a fight, because the resistances for T1 are shredded. But Peter just overextends, right? Just walks to his death. Then Cuz tries to hard force, and that desperation now feels apt. Because for KT, this is a almost 6K goal deficit, and you can hit the 225 on BDD, but that alone is not going to be enough anymore.
And good stuff from Guma, it has to be said. The Unara game was not good, but the bounce back here in this game 5, the bounce back in the Callista game to really take over. This man, again, unfazed by the pressure placed upon him. 3,000 individual gold lead. He conceded his pick early. He was willing to see the Ziggs on the other side, and now the MF that he picked so late in the draft is doing so much work.
There's a bottom side play at the moment. Cuz was kind of pinging and looking for a possible play onto Faker, but Faker backs off. He has the sense. He's not going to become a liability. And it's T1 who start up the Otacon and try and draw KT into that fight. They kite back through the tri-brush very nicely. It's in these moments, these big moments, Game 5, all the pressure on, the entire world watching. And T1 claim a huge advantage in the game, but it's not over yet.
No, it's certainly not. No flash on Guma after the previous fight. No flash on Faker. Doran has access to his as well as the Hextech ultimatum. BDD completing that third item. 4 stacks away from that crucial 225 threshold. Behind schedule now from the tournament most impressive moments as he was delayed by T1.
And KT, the luxury is that they have dragons, so they don't need to be forced into a fight. The unfortunate reality, though, is that in 20 seconds, T1 is going to start Baron. We all know it is inevitable at this point, and Shadow Flame's done for Dom. Third item for BDD plus the breakpoint, but they're going to have to find a miracle fight to stay in this game, because if they lose, this one's over.
And the reason you start that Baron is to draw KT out in the open so they can actually find the engage onto BDD. The hope there, he has no flash on Smolder. He may be the one with a gold lead. He may be the one with 3 items on KT, but T1 have so many weapons looking to kill that Smolder.
Feels so difficult now for KT. Feels like they're forced on the back foot. The T1 don't overplay their hand. KT always forced to respond for T1 in touching distance. Once again, 2015, 2016, 2017, they were denying the three-peat from Faker. But now this lineup, with Doran subbing in this year, on the cusp of making history. And it's Doran again who has been the center of attention in this crucial game on the Camille. 3.5K individual lead, 7,000 gold for T1. The Baron started as expected. KT in dire straits as Faker brings it back. Wants to turn with the taunt. Initial lockup from Keria is good. Doctom laying down a bit of poke, and he's going to be able to satchel out, but an immediate flash follow coming in from Owner. T1 don't even need the objective. They're happy to keep pushing for a bit more. On the top side of the fight, they've isolated BDD. He's continuing to fight. He wants to turn it back. He gets the kill. Doran, crucially, Faker falls. KT hold.
BDD, the heart of KT, is alive! The smolder lives under the tower, but T1 are still pinging towards the objective.
There's no way with Smolder alive. I don't think you can get away with it. And yes, they get Doctom, but all that KT want to do is stall. Keria's engaged, doesn't hit the mark immediately, and Doctom stalls for a good amount of time. Owner's able to take him down, but it's an overextension on the flip side.
Yeah, T1 are just too split. They go under tower here. Doran just barely cannot finish off BDD.
KT needed a miracle. T1 split their focus, split their attention, and it cost them dearly. It is, again, all eyes on BDD, because who else could it be? 3,000 individual gold lead, has crossed the stack threshold. He is the threat that T1 must reckon with in the fights to come, even with the massive lead they still hold.
And now he has Flash to play with, the ability to outplay. See if he can do it.
I don't want to be disingenuous. It has not been the story of this Worlds, but it has been the story of this year for KT. This gold graph right here is something that any KT fan has watched throughout, and when all is on the line, it might have to be BDD that carries them over again. I'm looking at Doran, he doesn't have Flash, but if he can get a node onto BDD, that could be enough to win the game. KT could choose not to fight here, but it looks like they're going to do so anyway.
T1. They need to have focus this time around. Last fight, they went for 2 angles at once, and they paid the price.
Flanks coming in. T1, entire topside missing Flash, that crucial cooldown, but their ultis will be there. 3 seconds on Doran. Gumayushi, the other player to keep your eye on as well. The ulti can do a lot of work. Doran going in, doesn't connect hookshot wall dive, immediately CC'd. Exhaust coming in as well. Combo over the top from Guma! Finds 2! Exhaust as Keria moves his way to the backline. Faker rains down from the sky, locks up BDD, and obliterates the hope for KT Rolster!
The bullet time will end the time of KT here at Worlds, as T1 will chase down Cuz and look for the Baron.
And BDD, on his shoulders, and that is too much weight for one man to bear. They find him with the engage. They take out the only important member on KT, as it's...
Oh, look at the setup there. The Leona ultimate nailing its target.
And then BDD gets found by Keria, locks him down, and that's Dragon. That's actually, they ran straight to Baron. I'm sure they got Dragon with that. They're not wasting any time here.
9,000 gold. See what they can do with the Red Bull Baron power play. KT, they dug deep on the top side, punished T1 for splitting their focus, but in that last fight you can see that even if the top side fumbles for a moment, Guma still demands that respect.
Gumayushi. What a game. What a series it has been. And T1 will clean up that Dragon as well, the leftovers.
Tasty snack for T1. For KT, the item finishes few and far between. A couple of components for Doctom. But we get into the point where I don't even know if they have the damage, even if they're able to absorb that initial engage. I think BDD might be able to get his IE.
T1 though, they're looking to secure their 3rd World Finals win in a row.
They don't want to give BDD the time to get that Infinity Edge. KT don't have the luxury of defensive items either for their key carries. Redemption, really all they have to protect Doctom and BDD. Faker solo pushing in the mid lane. The tier 2 will fall. Bot lane inhibitor likely next. This Doran really cannot be contested by anything more than the entire force of KT.
And T1 just have so many forms of engage. Even with Doran getting stuffed in the last one, Keria finding those KT carries and allowing T1 to take them down. There are just too many weapons and the map is too open now. KT are boxed into their own territory.
A comeback at this stage in Game 5 of a World Finals would likely be the greatest we have ever seen in the history of the sport. 10,000 gold advantage for T1. They are on Soul Point. They are so far ahead in every measurable metric. But the execution from KT, the potential, the tiniest glimmer of hope still lives on as long as their Nexus stands.
And all's on the line. T1, they can smell the weakness. 11k gold now. The Baron siege continues. And they will not be denied unless KT pull out an absolute miracle. I think we're seeing Owner looking for an ult angle, sitting in that jungle, but even with the wave clear of Ziggs and Smolder, it's tough to hold on.
Doran looking to get things kicked off. Hookshot wall that brings him over. He's taking the tower already. Flash back to get away from Cuz's ultimate. And the ulti manages to connect from Dom. A big fumble. Not enough to get T1 back into full control of the game because there are no objectives on the map, but it will slow down the onslaught of T1. It will give KT a bigger glimmer of hope.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel. KT, they buy some more time.
Will be the end for now of the push, but it doesn't make a dent. If they can get a team fight off that, bag themselves a bunch of shutdowns, it could have been something. At least they only lost a single inhib. That's something. And Cloud Soul going over makes the game very hard to play out, but that could have been, it could have been worse. You know, we're really, I'm really stretching it here, guys. I'm normally great at finding angles.
Doran's going on some fun journeys.
Yeah, you know, normally we talk about not getting excited for KT. We're way past that. They're in finals. But Doran might have to chill a little bit.
He's a player, though, that you have to love in these moments.
You do.
The Krug Lord. You have to embrace it. You have to laugh with him.
It's very true.
And at him.
And despite the fumbles, all of the fights that have gone well from the side of T1 have involved Doran in some way or another. Guma also the backup point. That MF ult, 4.5 items for Guma means it's still a terrifying threat. And KT will need to make a stand.
It's so hard, though, because, like, who do you actually focus? There's Faker, who has stopwatch. Galio is just naturally tanky, level 18 as well. It is just Guma, right? Like, that's the only one, but he has not been in a position for you to engage on.
You could engage on Doran, maybe.
Well, okay, in a scenario where Doran is with the rest of the team, I feel like you shouldn't be able to. Camille with hookshot and ult. I know what we've been witnessing.
100%
okay, but I mean,
value.
in a theoretical world where that doesn't happen.
True.
It's a TP ward there.
Push mid lane, well highlighted by our observers. Potential for a flank. Perfect and BDD as well as Dom do have access to that TP, although I imagine only Perfect will be looking to make the flank.
And I do seem to recall, I was in I cast a Ziggs game, I think this was Hanwha, and that one did go to 60 minutes. I'm just saying, we might only be halfway there. You know, we don't know. Is it likely? No. But it could happen again. But no, 2 times in a row.
Let's start the countdown now, shall we?
Yeah.
All right, 25 minutes away, 26 minutes away from a 60-minute game.
All they need is to get a, actually see the lines. So you steal with Dom's ult, the Baron. That gives you the stall. And then you flip Elder and you win.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, the good news for KT is, aside from that pipe dream, they do have Seekers on
Just
BDD.
optimistic.
Aside from that blinding optimism. But now they have to face check into the darkness. They see Doran in the mid lane at the very least. They see Faker. But again, if they overcommit to this play, double TPs are there. Owner's semi-global is there. They could just look to end. So Perfect has been called back as T1 looks set to get the soul.
And T1 also have the luxury. They could just look for the fight if they wanted to.
Owner takes the soul. Cuz stuck around a little bit too long, and now T1 empowered. Going to be that much faster, have that much more access to their ultimates. And I don't think there's any getting away from Faker, Doran, or Owner now that they have a Cloud Soul empowering them.
We're about to know whether this series will continue, whether the 60-minute dream stays alive, because GA's there for Owner. Guma has his sums available. We're gonna need to see a beautiful engage as Dom just now hit his third item. It's BDD with a stopwatch and a dream, wanting to keep that goal of making the World's Finals win a reality, but I think you guys are justifiably calling me out. It still doesn't really feel that likely.
And yet it didn't feel likely before when T1 split their attention.
That's true.
BDD was able to find the kill. So it's not over till it's over. But now with the Baron spawning, Relatively even setup, but again, it's the waves in favor of T1 that make this so hard. As immediately they're going to kick things off by going in on Cuz, taking away the Frost Armor passive. Lockdown from Carrier is there. TP in from Doran as well. All T's going across the board. BDD caught off the side. A good flash to take him out, and Guma has to be careful, but he's so damn fast. Owner to lock up BDD. He goes gold in an extra 2.5 seconds to consider what went wrong as T1 looks set to end it all.
They're going to finish the job. It is Doran and Peter left alone in the mid lane. And T1 will ace them.
T1 earning their legacy again and again and again. There can be no doubting it. 4 players on the Rift today making the impossible possible. Owner, Faker, Guma Yushi, Carrier, and now Doran as well are world champions.
And the disbelief on his face. A teammate that so many have praised over the long years. Domestically, he's always been able to show it. As T1 find the free-peat.
An unrivaled dynasty here has just been made. The three-peat is real.
A team that when they found despair in 2022 against DRX, took it to heart and have come every single world back to the finals, back to this trophy. KT had an incredible run, but against T1, it just feels impossible. A team that even in the face of bad games, even in the face of match point after game 3, did not falter for even a moment. It's KT's run, it has to be respected. Hearts out now to the players on stage.
Huge respect. What a run this roster has had.
And here now we check out the trophy ceremony presented by Mercedes-Benz. For these players in front of this, and again, this is T1 to its core, right? There is no arena, there is no stadium where they do not feel at home.
Doran, you can see still, barely believes it. Faker keeps giving him the shoulder taps. As T1 shows us again and again and again, as you highlighted, Dracos, why this is the greatest team in the world.
Chengdu erupts. T1 wait a moment to lift the trophy together as 5. Doran, the latest addition to win his first title. The remaining 4, their 3rd consecutive. T1 world champions once again.
And they did it as the 4th seed. Again, they had to play in the play-ins, the newly created play-ins. Elimination right at the beginning of the tournament was faced.
Oh man,